We are back, and it is not the dulcet tones of Ian O'Neill, Kilkenny's finest man, Ian O'Neill, speaking to you right now. No, he, in fact, is not here with us today, Caoilte. We're missing our leader, our host, the man who holds this ship together, but he's going to be getting married soon, so exciting times for Ian O'Neill. He is back in the homeland. He is supping creamy pints of Guinness I have seen on his Instagram, and no better man and no more deserving man for a couple of creamers than Ian O'Neill. But we are back. My name is Andy Stevenson. You guys should all know me by now, but if you don't, if you're a new listener, I will be filling in for Ian O'Neill today in the host chair. A little bit nervous, not gonna lie, Caoilte. I'm very nervous, and I've mentioned him twice now. I'm joined as always by my beautiful co-host, Caoilte de Barra. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Andy, we're matching. Both wearing green today, Love it. But it feels weird not having Ian introduce us at this point now. But look, he's got more important things to worry about at the moment. He's getting married. He's got to have a few creamy pints of Guinness down in the culture lands of Kilkenny and just get accustomed to the country again, especially the weather, because it's no Canada over here now.
We're both wearing green. That is a good observation, and no better week, right? Because this is a huge week for Irish MMA. We have Kiefer Crosbie, we have Shauna Bannon, we have Caolan Loughran all in action coming up this week on UFC 304. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the week that was in Irish MMA with Cage Warriors 174 after going down over in Manchester. Where was it? London? The Indigo? London. Don't even know the different cities, but we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about Danni McCormack and her big news. We're going to talk about the Cage Legacy card coming up this weekend, and a whole lot more. But how are you doing generally, Caoilte? How's life?
Fantastic. I didn't know we were getting deep, Andy. Great. Nice and chillaxed weekend. Just sat down, watched Cage Warriors. It started a bit earlier than I expected. I nearly missed the first fight, but got to sit down, watch fights, and get some pizza. Can't complain. How about yourself? You were auditioning for Surf's Up 3 down in Kerry, were you?
I was wiping out on, I think, every single fucking wave that I did. I went surfing in Kerry for the weekend, and let me tell you, if I'm not good at anything, it's surfing. I managed to stand up, I'd say 3 times, maybe 4 times total over 2 days, but my face was brutally beaten by the waves near every time. But look, people are sick and tired of hearing me talk about surfing here now. I think that they're looking for the MMA. What I will say is, if you are listening, and look, we don't do this too often, to be fair. I feel like we're pretty good with this stuff, but I hear that the internet people are telling me that comments, that likes, that shares, that reviews are all pretty good for helping us out. And on a serious note, if you're listening right now, and you want to do us a favor, if you like the show, if you like what we put on offer, if you want to pause, like right now, maybe just go give us a like. We'd really appreciate it. Specifically, if you could leave maybe a comment on the YouTube channel, on the SevereMMA YouTube, or to give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, especially. That'll really help us to basically like fuck with the algorithm and get the podcast spread out a bit further. So we'll be right back here as well. You can hit pause right now. Go do that, and then we'll be waiting here for you right now. And we'll welcome you back right now. Thanks to you all. You've all just done that. Much appreciated. But look, I clearly don't know what I'm doing when it comes to being in the host chair. We're already missing Ian.
I don't envy you at all.
But we're just going to and we're going to transition right on over look, we'll get to the UFC. We've got, oh, by the way, I didn't even mention, this is scandalous that we should have told you. We've got Kiefer Crosbie on today. We've got Caolan Loughran on today. This is a bumper UFC Manchester, UFC 304 Irish special. But we're going to look at the week that was first. And I would say a mixed bag of results over at Cage Warriors just gone by there. Some good wins, some tough losses. But really a phenomenal card. You mentioned there, Caoilte, you were watching over the weekend. What did you make of the card overall and the Irish on it?
Yeah, look, you weren't the only one getting smashed in the face this weekend, although yours was with waves, and the Irish lads at Cage Warriors was with 4-ounce gloves. But great card overall, unreal. Price fighter, absolutely love it. That one night tournament vibe and everything around it is just class. the Irish fights were good. There's some mixed results, but overall that card really, really delivered, like from top to bottom. It was just pure entertainment. No titles. The 50 grand was won. Jordan Vucenic was back and looked unbelievable up a weight class as well. So look, overall, what a card. What do you think yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like, there obviously a lot of Irish interest, but I did think it was very cool. The prize fighter, we talk about Irish MMA, but from one of the recurring themes or topics that does come up occasionally is pay. And, around that, Cage Warriors don't pay as much as other organizations. Whether they can or can't, it's obviously they're a sustainable organization who've been around a long time, and they have to do what they have to do to keep going. You see a lot of promotions that come and go. They've been a staple of the scene for a long, long time. But one of the criticisms or drawbacks is the lack of pay compared to some other organizations. But to be putting on an event here where you have 2 fights in one night and you come in $50,000, that's something to applaud, something to commend. So I thought that was brilliant. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see fighters getting those opportunities, and I thought it was great. But let's focus in on the Irish. We had a lot of fighters on this card. We had Matt Elliott kicking things off. We had Eimear Darcy. We had Gheorghe Grozav. I think I may be pronouncing this one right. Is it Gheorghe Grozav? I think we might need to get this lad on, because I think I've been pronouncing his name wrong.
We butcher so many names at this point. I think it's about time.
And poor Cage Warriors just struggling with the Irish names in this one. At Eimear, I heard a few different pronunciations of that. I saw them getting dogs abuse online as well, the poor lads. But we also had Ryan Shelley in action. We had James Webb in action, and we had Jer Harris. And look, we're going to go through each and every one of those. So let's start from the bottom of the card. Matt Elliott gets a win over Luca Barando, second round submission, rear naked choke. What did you think of him, Caoilte?
Fantastic. I thought really looked a different level this time around than what we've seen in the past. He looks really comfortable on the feet now. We saw it in the first round in particular. And it was against no joke of an opponent as well. Luca Barando, for anyone who may not have known before, he was undefeated before this fight. Really highly touted in Italy. Thought they consider him a very decent prospect. No wonder Cage Warriors signed him. And yeah, Matt Elliott really put a beating on him for, it was a good fight, but I thought Matt Elliott was just levels above him in this one. He looks a lot more comfortable on the feet. He threw this kind of crescent kick, front kick in the first round. It was out of nowhere, and it was brilliant. It was a front kick. If crescent kick was later on, it was a different fight. But he looked a lot more comfortable striking. Body kicks were brilliant, and just levels above what he's looked before, I think. And then in the second round, we got to see him kind of utilize that grappling a lot more, and got that. Then for the finish, got the level change from the clinch, took the back, gets a few strikes in, and then submits him. Overall, he brilliant performance from Matt Elliott. Really looks at home in those 4 ounce yellow gloves from Cage Warriors. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And I think that for me, when you look at Matt Elliott and how he looked early on, he comes from very much a grappling background. He's a decorated judo player. He is a decorated wrestler, has competed, representing Team Great Britain in the Commonwealth Games, I believe, and other, international competitions. That's his bread and butter. And we saw, the fight that always comes, we always kind of hark back to, is that fight from a judging perspective between Matt and Ryan Shelley, where it was all his grappling. But the work that he has clearly been putting in, and we saw it in his last fight as well in Dublin, the work that Matt has been putting in with Liam Shannon and Pat McAllister has been sensational. Because if you look at him fight now, that first round, he was going in there and he was more than happy to exchange on the feet. And he looks comfortable in there. He looks fluid. He looks like he's really added a number of strings to his bow. So he's not to say that he was ever one-dimensional, but it was very much more a grappling focused game plan previously, whereas now, he can do it all, it seems. And I think that when, this wasn't, I wouldn't say this was a walkover performance, but it was dominant at the same time. I think Barando did some good work in the first, at one point with the body work. He was landing some nice shots with his boxing to the body. But really, once they got to the grappling areas as well, Matt just completely took over. He shot in for a nice double leg. His transitions to the body lock, his transitions to the back takes, he took the back a number of times in the fight, and ultimately he gets the finish, the rear naked choke. And I really think this was a very solid showing from Matt Elliott. I thought it was a breakout performance by him, and he's probably one that, obviously we're going to see him get incremental steps up in competition now and start moving up, and that's a very competitive division, that 145 division. But he's a guy who could be a player in that division moving forward, and a potential future title contender. Very, very impressed with Matt Elliott's performance. Moving on to the next one up for the Irish was Eimear Darcy, and we saw her in Dublin completely obliterating her opponents. It was another very, very dominant performance here against Camilla Bergstrom, a first round TKO. What did you make of this one, Caoilte? Obviously, we might talk about matchmaking and stuff a little bit off the back of this one, but the performance itself from Eimear, what did you make of it?
Yeah, it was dominant, one sided. Yeah, she ran through her. Bergstrom got one or two shots off, and but it was one-way traffic. The right hand was money all day for Eimear Darcy. Every time she threw that, it was landing. She found range very, very early, started landing her strikes, and you could see very early that it was the end. The end was very near, and it wouldn't go past the first round. She was lighting her up. The face was all bloodied up of Bergstrom, and it was dominant. She, even when Bergstrom fumbled a takedown attempt, and Eimear Darcy got straight into full mount, and that was all she wrote, really. It was a very one-sided performance.
Yeah, I thought she just looked very much a different level. It was a complete, it looked like a complete mismatch, really. I mean, I kind of put out on Twitter that, while Bergstrom did, land a couple of shots, Eimear took a couple of shots, but you don't go swimming and not get wet. So
as you learned this weekend,
as I have very much learned this weekend, but I think it was a completely dominant performance, similar to her last one. Obviously this one went a bit longer, but I mean, Eimear kind of just carved through her like a hot knife through butter here. Look, the criticism, I suppose, of and this is nothing to do with Eimear, but more so just the matchmaking. If you look at this, Camilla Bergstrom had lost her last 7 fights in a row, I think it was, or no, that might be wrong. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. She had lost her last 5 fights in a row, and she was 1-7 as an amateur coming into this. Just not great. I think it's very difficult to get females matched up in MMA. I think it's a lot more difficult than it is for men, simply because the talent pool is a lot smaller. But at the same time, you look at the last opponent in Jenny Lyon. She was on a significant loss streak. I think she may have had. If I'm going to look it up here right now, I usually do this as Ian's talking. But she was on a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, she was on a 7-fight losing streak heading into that one. So Eimear Darcy completely dominant. She looks brilliant, but you really would want to be seeing her going in there against tougher competition than what she's faced so far. And to be fair, if this was a Cage Legacy or a show in Ireland, we'd be criticizing this. It's on a Cage Warriors show, so you'd kind of be expecting. And Ian Dean, one of the best matchmakers in the world, if not the best, in my opinion. And there was some brilliantly matched fights on this card, which we'll talk about later on. But I just think that, I don't know, I think we need to see a significant step up in competition for Eimear Darcy, because these, I don't feel like we're learning a whole lot from these matchups at the moment.
It's exactly like the fight went exactly how we expected. It's like when you're bringing someone in, the one thing about Bergstrom is she was tough as nails. She seemed to be very hard to finish as an amateur. She majority decisions. She only got finished on one occasion. That was in her last amateur fight before going pro, and Eimear Darcy managed to get her out there in less than 3 minutes. But for professional level, for Cage Warriors level in particular, you'd be hoping for a better matchup. You'd imagine they have the pull power to be able to get a decent prospect from somewhere around Europe and give a better test than that. But look, it's not Eimear Darcy's fault at the end of the day, but Cage Warriors I would have expected a little bit better from. So I imagine hopefully the next card they will give her some bit of a step up in competition, because that's 2 in a row now. I think she's definitely shown she's levels above these girls they're giving her, and deserves a much better test if she's to crack on inside the Cage Warriors cage.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I do understand that it's difficult, but I think it does a disservice to the likes of an Eimear Darcy or like a Max Lally, who we'll probably talk about later on, where you have these fighters who look really promising, but then there's like not an asterisk, because like it's you go in, you can only beat who's in front of you, but then you have like, it's now a talking point, like we're talking about this, and you have to kind of look at the situation in front of you and be like, well, brilliant win, but the level of competition is just not, it just, I feel like it almost it mars it can mar a fighter's results, or like or if they start to get some like a reputation of like Caolan Loughran, for example, right, who we have on the show today, and we'll probably talk about this with him, is he was known as a can crusher. Like, that was the label that was placed on him early days, and now you look at him in the UFC, and like it's not his fault. Like, clearly he's gone in there taking short notice of replacements against these like vastly more experienced fighters, or like former champions. But when you're being matched with these fighters who have really bad records, you start to build a reputation, and that's the fear that I would have for fighters like Eimear Darcy or Max Lally or whoever the person may be. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. Not to take away anything from Eimear's performance, because she looked brilliant, but you do have to kind of look at the opponent as well.
Yeah, you don't want to be looking at these fights and just like, you want to be able to go through them and be like, that's a fantastic performance, without having a but at the end. And that's the kind of surrounding theme with when these type of fights are matched. And like, now we've seen it happen at regional level. That's a very common thing around the world. We've seen it at Cage Warriors, which is a little bit of a surprise compared to usual. We've seen the likes of it in the Bellator PFLs as well. So it just seems to be across MMA, and it's unfortunate, but hopefully we can see some more improvements over the years. But I ain't holding my breath anytime soon. Just got to call it out when we see it.
And then on the flip side, because we mentioned this previously as well, like, while we are complaining about the matchmaking, I think it is brilliant. Like, because like, look, the reality of the situation was Cage Warriors didn't have any female fights for the longest time, so it is a step in the right direction. I realize we're kind of like, we want women fights in Cage Warriors, and then we're like, but we don't want those fights. But that's, I don't know, that's kind of just it's a tough one. It's a tough one, because I think it's absolutely brilliant that there's a considerable increase in the number of female fights they've had on the shows lately, and long may that continue. So I would rather see them have the fights and maybe us not being completely happy with the matchups than not having them at all. I think we'll have to take what we're given for now anyway. But look, we'll move on, and we'll move on to the next one, and a brilliant performance here by Paddy Houlihan's fighter, team Houlihan Martial Arts' Gheorghe Grozav, defeating Brunning in the first round via submission at Kimura. Caoilte, were you as impressed as I was by Grozav's performance here?
Oh yeah, I thought he was. Thought he looked really good. He belonged in that cage. That is the one thing I took out of that. That's a really good win as well. He was given a tough card in his Cage Warriors debut, but he looked calm, he looked patient, really composed inside there. He got the takedown early. He was he was timing things really well as well, because Brunning is a bit longer, landing some nice kicks, and then Grozav timing the takedown was just brilliant. Body lock straight to half guard, and then that kind of began the sequence up towards getting that Kimura. And what I love about the Kimura finish is those submissions. We saw a graphic recently, I can't remember where it was from, of submissions that are dying out in MMA, and you don't see them anymore. And the majority we tend to see nowadays are rear naked chokes. You don't see guillotines as much anymore. It's pretty much rear naked chokes nowadays. So it's so nice to see and refreshing to see the likes of a Kimura submission make its way into the cage again, because mixing it up, and it was brilliant. The way he executed it was fantastic. It was so quick, and brilliant performance. Really one of the standout performances of the night for me.
He just, I mean, to go in there in his cage warriors debut as well, he just looked incredibly smooth. I thought that, like, he was the composure that he showed in the exchanges. Obviously, you know, it was a lot of back and forth, clinch positions early on in the fight, but I thought that he looked a superior grappler. And really, you know, he was getting those body lock takedowns. And I think that, as you said, the finish was clinical, you know, to step in and just snatch the arm, grab the Kimura. I thought it was brilliant and really setting the stage for a big week here for Houlihan Martial Arts, for Paddy Houlihan's gym, with obviously Grozav just competing there at the weekend, I guess 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever it is, 8 days, and Shauna fighting this weekend. You know, they would have done a lot of work together, so could be a big week for the gym. And I think that's his like eighth win in a row. You know, he fought a who's who at amateur before making the jump to pro, and back-to-back finishes so far, and a very successful cage warriors debut. So I'm really impressed by George or Gheorghe. One, we will get clarification.
We'll figure it out eventually.
But really impressive stuff by the Houlihan Martial Arts fighter. Another very impressive performance, but unfortunately for the Irish was for all the wrong reasons, was Nick Bagley over Ryan Shelley. I thought Ryan Shelley, obviously fighting out of Team KF Martial Arts, succumbed to a first round submission loss here via rear naked choke to Nick Bagley. Look, I think it was a tough loss for Ryan, but you know, where we were talking about matchmaking in kind of a negative way, it's kind of like or on one end of the scale, it's the other end of the scale here. I feel like for this matchup against Nick Bagley, Bagley looked phenomenal here. I thought he kind of just went in there and put on a clinic against Shelley, who, you know, he's had a couple of losses now. I think that's his third of his last 4 fights. He's going through a rough patch in his career at the moment, and yeah, an unfortunate result for the Team KF man.
It was, yeah, you're right, and you're right about Nick Bagley. He looked sensational. He game plan to perfection, utilizing those low kicks against a big, long rangey fighter, taking his opportunities when they appear. And yeah, it's a tough run for Ryan Shelley at the moment, because he just, even in that fight, he didn't seem to get going. He didn't even have a chance to get going. Nick Bagley just didn't give him the opportunity to get anything off, really. And yeah, it's a shame. It's as you mentioned, it is that rough patch now. He had a good win there back in, what was it, April against Callum Parker, and now he's kind of back to the drawing board again to see what he can come up with next time. But hopefully we can see him back in there by the end of the year, and a different performance to what we've seen at the weekend.
Yeah, I still rate Ryan Shelley very highly. I don't know. I think
it's a cruel sport.
Yeah, it is. It's a cruel sport, and there's something missing for him at the moment. And look, he's gone in there against some really tough guys. Like, he obviously fought against Tobias Harila and took a tough loss there in that one. But yeah, like Bagley just kind of, it was a perfect fight from him, really, wasn't it? Like, he, as you mentioned, those low kicks where they looked to be stinging Shelley early, and then once he got him to the mat, like, I thought that the trip takedown was nice, and then really he just drowned him in the grappling and got the finish, got the choke. A really impressive showing by Nick Bagley. But yeah, like, it'll be interesting to see where Ryan goes from here now, whether it's whether it's in Cage Warrior still or elsewhere. I don't know what the status of his contract is or anything like that. But you know, like, I'm looking forward to seeing him back. I feel like, you know, we've seen him come back before, so I think he can do it again, and I'm interested to see him. But yeah, a tough one for him there on the night. And look, mixed emotions. A mixed bag of results for the Irish, but also mixed emotions for Chris Fields as Team KF head coach, with James Webb also competing on the card, who got a really solid win here over Adam Biganski by unanimous decision. What did you think of James Webb here?
He looked huge. That man, oh my god. Yeah, look, he looked really good. Different fight to what we're used to seeing. He tends to have that kind of grapple heavy style, but he seems to, after getting a lot more comfortable on the feet, and I would wonder if some of it has to do with being he's been training over at that kind of heavyweight crew that they have in is it over in Wigan?
Right, they were, the commentary team were mentioning that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that definitely will pay dividends when you're sparring with the likes of Aspinall and all these just huge lads on a daily basis. You become very comfortable on the feet and striking with them and improve and level up. I think he always had the striking, but seemed completely, it's different game plan to usual. Looked brilliant. Yeah, really enjoyable fight overall. It was a bit of a slugfest at times, maybe slowed down a bit towards the end, but overall, James Webb definitely deserved that victory. I thought it was a clear enough cut victory for him, and yeah, brilliant for him. He looked really good at 205.
Yeah, I mean, like he looks massive. The commentary team were pointing it out as he was walking to the cage, and like he's clearly undertaken a physical transformation there, and like he looks, he just looks like an absolute beast, especially, and like, he's up a weight class as well. The former middleweight champion now fighting at 205. I'd agree. I think that he definitely won that fight. Obviously the scorecards were 29, 28, 29, 28 and 30, 27, and as you mentioned, we're used to when he had that middleweight run where those fights against Matthias Frederick and the run to the title, it was more a grinding approach, a grinding game plan. He's using his grappling, whereas now, especially in the first round here, I thought that he looked like a man fighting with complete freedom on the feet. He looked way more comfortable, a lot more confident in his striking. I thought that maybe waned a little bit as the fight went on, and he seemed to kind of maybe go back into the old ways, or he was a bit more tentative on the feet, and maybe not leading the dance as much. And Chris Fields was yelling for that. But overall, I think this was a really solid performance, and I think he's found a home at 205. So yeah, fair play to him, and be interesting to see how he kicks on, if he can maybe make another run towards a title there in Cage Warriors, or even get an opportunity in the UFC. Another man, I was on the crack with Pizzi there last week, and he asked me, who are the ones to watch here on this card, and I must have put the fucking curse on Ryan Shelley and Jer Harris, because they were the two I mentioned, and unfortunately Jer Harris losing the split decision to Joanny Scott, 29-28, 28-29 and 30-27 to Scott. But my God, this was an absolutely phenomenal fight, and a credit to Ian Dean here, because as we mentioned earlier, we gave out about the Eimear Darcy fight, but my God, like this, to me, I tweeted out, this kind of reminded me of Paul Hughes versus Jordan Vucenic 1, where you have two young fighters in their career coming up, and they look incredibly evenly matched. A very, very close fight. I would say that the third round was probably the most definitive round, although Jer Harris had a surge very late in the round. I don't think it was enough to win the round itself, but Joanny Scott looked absolutely phenomenal. I thought Jer looked brilliant. For the vast majority of this fight, the scrambles were bananas. And yeah, this was, like, for me, I admittedly I didn't watch the entire full card. I was away for the weekend, and the card seemed like it was never going to end. But this was the fight of the night to me. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. It was class, non-stop action. The flyweights always deliver. This fly never die, as Ian says. We always have to get it in. But yeah, the pace that this fight was fought at was just insane. We saw every aspect of their game, between the striking, between the exchanges between the two of them. The grappling was just unbelievable. Joanny Scott was, he actually surprised me with how good he was on the ground. Thought Jer was incredible. The amount of times he got the back as well. I imagine he might be a little bit disappointed he couldn't maybe get the finish from one of those positions at times, but the scrambles were just insane, to a point where I can imagine it would have been next to impossible to get an opening in that situation, in the situations he was in. But unbelievable fight. Thought the two of them left it all in there. They looked absolutely shattered afterwards, and if there was bonuses going, geez, you'd say they would have gotten it. But yeah, look, fantastic. Great to see the two of them. It's a shame for Jer. Split decision. I agree, it was definitely a split. I'd say it was a nightmare to score for the judges. I didn't really agree with 30-27, but as I said, nightmare to judge. I'm not sure. How do you think about that?
Yeah, geez, I'm not even going to attempt to score, because I need to go back and watch it about 5 times. But like the fight, I mean, the whole thing, I thought it was brilliant. Like, even the walkouts, I thought there was great crack between like the opposing fans. It felt like a big fight where you had, Jer seemed to have a good traveling support. I loved the King of the Swingers or whatever, like the Jungle Book walkout. I think it's brilliant. He should absolutely stick with that. And then Scott had huge support. Back and forth chanting in the fight. I thought that was great crack. And like, I think that Jer looked I thought he looked incredibly dangerous, even when, say, Scott was initiating some of the grappling exchanges, and he was the one who was ended up on, say, top position. Ger was dangerous throughout. I think he used like a straight arm lock to sweep at one point. I thought like the up kicks, he looked dangerous in a lot of positions. The one aspect where I feel like Gheorghe Scott made his mark more on the judges' scorecards was when he was in, say, a top position, whether it be against the cage or on the ground. I feel like he was using his striking more, and I feel like he was scoring with his shots. There was a lot of times where Ger was getting to great spots and putting in some really great work, but wasn't maybe capitalizing with regards to like submission attempts that were very close to finishing or landing the damage. And I thought that the striking exchanges on the feet were, they were pretty even, I would say, across the board there. But predominantly it was a grappling based, it was the grappling that dictated what was going on at all times in the fight. So look, as I said, I'd love to see a rematch at one point. And, Gheorghe Scott, when we're analysing Ger Harris's performance here, Gheorghe Scott's a guy he's beaten Lonnie Kavanagh at amateur as well. So, a really top prospect here. And I feel like either one of these lads could be Cage Warriors champion in the future. And I think that, like, even though we're talking about a Ger Harris loss here, I think that's one of the best performances he's put on in his career. Now, I do think he slowed down in the third. I think that his cardio may be weighing there. But, like, looking at him in the first and second round is the variety that he has, whether it's grappling or striking, I think is phenomenal. So, it's a loss, but I think it's a loss that may stand to Ger, moving forward, fighting a high-level guy like that.
Yeah, there's a lot to take from a loss like that, a lot of lessons, and a lot to look back on and be happy with as well, because the way his grappling was sensational, his striking, he matched Gheorghe Scott for striking quite a bit as well. Like, going into this, people would have been rating Gheorghe Scott. They were rating Gheorghe Scott's his striking a lot more, his hands, how sharp he was, but Ger put it up to him. It was brilliant. So there'll be a lot to take from it. I wouldn't be surprised if Ger comes back and is in the title mix still by the end of the year, if he can get one or two fights in. I imagine Gheorghe Scott's going to go on and he's probably maybe one fight away from a title fight really after that, especially with that type of performance too, You're
100%. And like, I would say, but like, that's the type of fight where we're seeing a lot more fighters not needing to get the Cage Warriors belt to, say, get a call up to the Contender Series. You look at a fight like that, and if like I'm a matchmaker, if you're a matchmaker, you're licking your lips. Now, there wasn't a finish, obviously, but like, I mean, there's no one who wasn't entertained watching that fight. Well, look, overall, I think a good night of fights, mixed bag for the Irish, but some really, really solid performances in there. We've looked back at that, and now we will look ahead to, this is huge. This is a huge week in Irish MMA. Kiefer Crosbie, Caolan Loughran, and Shauna Mama B Bannon fighting over at UFC 304 in Manchester. Caoilte, I believe the last time we had 3 Irish fighters on a UFC card. Now, we don't know. I don't know this for certain, so I'm just going to wing this. But I think it was the Paddy Houlihan versus Smoker card back at UFC Dublin in 2015. And that is 9 years ago at this point, which is crazy. We had Neil Seary and Charlie Ward sharing a card in 2017, but to have 3 Irish on a UFC show is mad. And you know what? We'll save our thoughts on that because we've got Kiefer Crosbie right here, right now. So I'm going to send it over to myself. We're going to have a chat with Kiefer, BDK Crosbie, a big, big fight for him against Sam Patterson. Had the short notice UFC debut. He's coming to right the wrongs here in Manchester. We're going to go speak to him right now. And now we are joined by the fighting pride of the North Side, UFC 304's Kiefer BDK Crosbie taking on Sam Patterson this coming Saturday in Manchester. Kiefer, how are you?
Oh, good, man. How's things?
Things are fantastic. We were saying your guns broke the internet there a minute ago. You were kicked out.
It's boys. We're only getting warmed up, baby.
You're looking in good nick. It's like, obviously you've had a lot more time to prepare for this one rather than the debut. How is it going? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel great, man. Yeah, I feel super. There's no complaints on my end. I had to put in the work in the past few months, really, really hard, and I'm happy. Yeah, so I'm ready to go now. I've been ready to go weeks, so I'm actually just looking forward to actually getting in there now at this stage. You know what I mean?
It's a much different, scenario coming in here than your last fight. When we were speaking to you ahead of your debut, obviously it was short notice. You were, I think at the time, you might have even been over in Cannes when we were chatting to you with Connor. You had to fly halfway across the world, taking on a dangerous opponent who's, big guy coming down from middleweight. But the focus was like, I remember when we were chatting to you, it was all around like, it was this big moment in your career, right? You'd finally realized the UFC dream. You spoke to us about that you'd never put on the UFC gloves before because you wanted to earn it. You wanted to get there. You got to have that moment. Obviously, the result didn't go your way. But when you reflect on that whole week, that whole debut, like, are you happy with it? Obviously, aside from the result, or how do you reflect on it now, some time removed?
Obviously, yeah, no, obviously, look, everything was perfect until the result. But, look, there's a lot to take from competing in any sport, you know what I mean? Especially in fighting, making the walk and stepping in there, your experience is gonna up levels, and it'll all pay dividends in the future. Do you know what I mean? You just keep showing up. The trick is to just keep going. Do you know what I mean? I've said this for many years. I think it's almost like the story in my life at this stage. The amount of people that wrote me off and said I'd never make it into the UFC, and it's okay. Like, I go on all day saying stuff like this, It's like, the only one that actually truly really believed in himself is me. So, I know even win, lose, draw, it doesn't really matter. I did it. I made the walk. I felt what it feels like. I had Bruce Buffer screaming in my face. I had everything that, you know what I mean, people would dream of apart from a win. So, I mean, now I just get to do it again next week, and now I'm fully prepared. And the last time I wasn't prepared. And what I've learned really from the last time was the most important part of a fight is the preparation, and it's that simple. It's you don't get a call for a Premier League football match on 10 days notice and be like, here, John, like, it doesn't work like that in other sports, but in this sport it kind of does sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? You get an opportunity at the drop of a hat, and remember, this isn't like a team sport where you can pass the ball to someone that's fitter than you. You're in there fucking representing your own life here, so I genuinely wasn't ready, and they caught me on the hop, you know what I mean? And now I'm ready. I'm in shape, and I think this is the real debut. Do you know what I mean? That's the way. That's my mindset is switched to. This is the actual first walk of my career. The last one was the last one. Whatever. It got me in the door. I failed. I fell on my face. This one's the real walk. You know what I mean? So I'm ready to die on my fucking shield here, and I'm ready to fight hard for 15 minutes if I have to. Do you know what I mean? And now I know that. The last time I knew I couldn't fight hard for 15 minutes, and that's a scary feeling to have in your head. I was kind of reserving energy and holding back, and I didn't want to go splats, and I didn't want to throw too hard in case the heart rate went too high. And there's things that I was holding myself back from. You can see it in my performance even. I was trying to take his head off, but at the same time, I was trying to like not get too drawn into a scramble. Do you know what I mean? Because you get tired. Now it's not like that. You know what I mean? I'm ready to fight now, and I'm ready to fight hard for an hour if I have to. Do you know what I mean? So you're gonna see a different person next week, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot to be in. Like, it's MMA is cruel because like you can be preparing your entire career for this, and like I remember chatting to you before the cowboy fight, and it was like all these milestones or like the tick boxes that you have to get the UFC's attention. Taking on a vet, going out there, getting a finish, and then you do all that. And then still, whatever, through circumstance or whatever, a call can come at a time when it's just not ideal, and you kind of don't really have a choice other than to take it, do you?
No, it was a gun to the head job. It was like, if you don't take this, you're never getting into the UFC. So it wasn't like I had a choice, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I said, like, oh, here, look, thanks for the opportunity, but can you give me like 8 weeks? You know what I mean? It didn't. It was like, look, do you want to fight in 2 weeks in Australia? No, and if it's a no, well, then fuck off. You know what I mean? So it was like, yeah, no. What do I do here? It was a gun to the head, so I had to jump at it. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm very grateful for that opportunity, and again, I got me foot in the door, and it gave me this opportunity. It gave me a 4-fight deal. It wasn't a 1-fight deal. Do you know what I mean? It was a 4-fight deal. So the second one will be different. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm grateful for. So it is what it is. You know what I mean?
You were chatting with Pete on the crack I was listening to earlier on, and you were saying that you got death threats, like that you were getting these crazy messages. Were people like actually going to this degree of like threatening you? Which is like, it's mad to even think about.
They only threaten me on social media. I've never got a death threat to my face. So Social media is fake. It doesn't exist. It's not real. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, after that fight, man, I've never experienced that like it. Like normally, like for me, it's like the 90-10 rule on my social media. I get 90% love and respect, and then 10% dickheads. You know what I mean? After that loss, man, it was like the world was waiting on me to lose so they could just lash out on me. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I actually couldn't believe me DMs and the comments, and like I've never had that experience before, where it's like every single comment and DM was just like boom, 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 all negative, all craziness, you know, just saying mad shit. You know what I mean? And I was like, fucking hell, like that's mental, carry on. And I went on for fucking months. Like I went on for ages, and it was kind of like it was kind of funny at some stages, but I got to the stage where I was just blocking so many people that I got weird. Do you know what I mean? I was like, many fucking more people to have to block. This is mad. Like this is weird. Do you know what I mean? Grown men texting me mad shit. Like, and yeah, like it didn't affect me or bother me, but it kind of just made me open my eyes to realize, you know, when people talk about that type of stuff, I've never had that experience before until after that loss. It's like, oh fuck, I can see how this would actually ruin people, especially like, you know, see girls and they get a lot of backlash. For me, like, you can say what you want to me. If you're gonna say on Instagram you're a pussy, say it to me face. Like if you're gonna come down to the gym and say it to me face, I'm there every day. Do you know what I mean? Like it's never once. And I've asked people to come down to the gym multiple times and say exactly what you said to me. Hold that same energy and just float down and say it to me. Never once have they ever showed up at the gym. So in my reality of life, it doesn't really matter what they say online. But it was just more so an interesting thing, do you know what I mean? And then the death threats was more so like, you know, I lost loads of money on you. I was getting a lot of that shit, you know what I mean? It's like, you didn't lose loads of money on me, you stupid bastard. If anyone, I lost money as well, because my paycheck I couldn't have. It's not as if I wanted to lose, you know? But what can you do? Don't gamble, folks. Bad for you.
I mean, that's fucking disgrace. Like I know you've had messages before, like more so ones that you can kind of be like, oh, this is a bit of crack. Like I remember was her name Mary or something? There was some woman who was saying you were gonna lose. You had a bit of crack with her for a while. I remember that, but like that.
Hey, listen, I get this feel to this day. I get it every day. I go onto my DMs. I have some Lola fucking texting me mad shit. You know what I mean? And it's like to the point now where it's like I kind of even like, you know, when you see a message, you kind of know from the first two words, this is a lunatic. I just swipe out. I'm not even gonna click into that one. Do you know what I mean? I get that a lot. But like, look, this is just. I don't ever text anyone on social media saying anything bad. Do you know why? Because I'm too busy focused on actually being progressive and trying to do something with me life. So my theory on it is you're all just a pack of fucking losers if you're texting a full-time professional athlete that's actually trying his best at something. You're the fucking one that's actually losing here, not me. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just social media for you boys. I'm sure you get a bit of backlash too off certain people, and I think once you're doing anything, you're trying your hand on anything and trying to be good at something, you're gonna get a bit of shit off people. So it's part of the game, you know what I mean? It's just part of it, unfortunately.
It's mad. As we were prepping for this, you've been doing the media circuit, and so I'm going to jump off of a few other podcasts here. I heard you chatting with PT and with the lads in the Energy Show, and I think the Malloy twins, around losing the love of the sport and kind of falling out of love with MMA, and then going through that process of being like, you know, what am I doing here? But I'm curious, like, did it ever get to the point where you considered walking away from the sport?
Oh yeah, all the time. You know what I mean? I think anyone that's got to the level that I've got to and been in this game for as long as I have, everybody's thought about fuck this sport. You know what I mean? It's of course, like, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't like a normal sport where it's all fun and, you know, we get to train every day and it's super fun and we're super fit and all. We're in here breaking each other up every day. I'm broke up. I'm sitting here, I'm broke up. We're getting brain damage. So we're breaking bones in our body. You know, I've had surgery. I've had multiple like discs fucked to me back, and you know, I'm in bits. You know what I mean? You do get to a point where you're just like, man, this is just a lot. You know what I mean? You'd have to be mad not to think like that. So I think if you're losing the love for it, everything just got to me. You know what I mean? I just felt like, this is just chaotic. This lifestyle. And I'm a father of 3 kids as well. At the end of the day, and coming back broke up every day. I'm in bits and. You know, it's a pressure cooker, this fight game as well. Do you know what I mean? Coming up the fights, it's all fun and games. I'm sure, like, for you lads looking and talking to us, it's all exciting and it's great. And to be in the stands, it's looking in. It's the most exciting sport in the world. to the fan. But remember, we're the ones that's walking into that cage and it's do or die. Do you know what I mean? I could get absolutely KO'd badly here and have to go to the hospital after this fight, or he could too, and his family's gonna have to deal with that, and so am I. And that's the reality. And I've been on both sides of that. I've gone to hospitals with friends of mine who was in bad ways, and they've never come back from them loss. I've seen it. Do you know what I mean? And I've lost blood. I've got the stitches to prove. I've got the scars to prove. I know this is as real as it gets, as the logo says. So it's kind of like, you know, you get fucking to a point where it's like, how much more damage do I want to take? And you go in dips, you know what I mean? I got to that stage, and then I kind of the fire came back, and I was like, you know what, like, this is who I am. This isn't like the love of the sport. It's who I am. I'm a fighter, do you know what I mean? It's in me, you know. I'm not doing this because I just love the sport. I'm doing it because I'm a fighter, do you know what I mean? And it's who I am. And if I die tomorrow, you know, on my headstone will be Kiefer Crosbie, professional fighter, do you know what I mean? And in every sense of the word. And my goal at the start was to be one of the best fighters to ever come out of Ireland, regardless of any of the fight combat sports, like boxing, kickboxing, MMA, all of it. And sitting here right now, if you listed your top 5 mixed martial artists from Ireland, I'm definitely amongst the top 5, and I think I always will be. And I'm still going. I'm not anywhere near retired yet. So I've already ticked that box, and I know I want to make an even further stamp on my name and go bigger and have better performances, and you know what I mean. And that's my mindset. I'm not really competing with anyone other than the legacy of my own life. You know what I mean? I'm trying to leave something big behind and go down as a Jack Dempsey type figure, or have that name, boom, embroidered in the history of combat sports in Ireland. One of the greatest fighters to ever come from Ireland. And that's what my main mindset is, you know. I don't care about the rankings in the UFC or a belt or any of that. I just want to be one of the greatest fighters to ever come from Ireland. And someone from the north inner city that comes from fuck all and having absolutely nothing at all to now being in the UFC and doing something positive with his life. From where I come from, it's deemed impossible. It's deemed like that's literally impossible, and I've done it. So, and I'm still doing it, and that's my mindset. You know what I mean? And hopefully, I can inspire my own kids and anyone else who looks at me as an example of someone that can just make something of themselves. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I carry myself. So.
Kiefer, you're one of the kind of OGs of SBG that are kind of still around. And if I look at ones that have gone past, like Paddy, Chris, so on, they've gone on to they've gone on their coach and opened their own gyms. And yeah. I know you're nowhere near retired, but has there ever been like a plan in place for you to what you might decide to do afterwards? Like, would you consider going down the route the way the lads have?
No, absolutely. I'm going to have my own gyms eventually when I, when I retire. Absolutely. Like, I love martial arts. I love coaching. I love teaching. I want to be involved in martial arts for the rest of my life. I won't be a fighter forever, do you know what I mean? But I'll definitely be a martial artist until I'm on my deathbed. So without a shadow of a doubt, I'll have, a chain of gyms. That's definitely the long-term plan. You know what I mean? And the love of martial arts is too strong for me to ever walk away from it. You know what I mean? I'll be one of those lads that's in his fucking 90s with a gi on, choking young lads out and showing them what's what. You know what I mean? That's just who I am. So definitely in the future I'll be a coach. Yeah.
Was there ever a moment that you actually kind of realized that coaching was definitely the path? Because you could be a martial artist, like lads who just show up on the mats, but actually that moment of coaching where you realize, oh, you see someone improving and you've helped them to that point where it's like, okay, that's for me going forward, that the teaching side of it is for you as well.
I think I'm already in that role, to be honest. The amount of fighters that I have helped out over the years, look at the amount of corners I've been in. And this isn't me asking them to be in the corner. They're asking me, do you know what I mean? And the amount of high-level fighters corners I've been in. And obviously, I'm very grateful for that too. And I know I'm a great coach, and I know I'm a great corner man, and I know I'm a great asset to anyone's corner or team, you know what I mean? And obviously from the 20+ years experience of martial arts and making the walk so many times, and I've been there, I've done that. I'm not a bullshitter coach. That there's a lot of bullshitters in this fucking sport, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people that hold pads and think they know what's what, and they don't know what they're fucking doing. but they somehow get into gyms and they talk shit, and you'd swear they have experience when they don't. I've been there, yeah. I've done that. I've wore the t-shirts. I've bled. You know what I mean? I know what it's like to be on the stool in between rounds with broken bones and get back up and make the walk again into the second and third. So, I've paid my dues. So giving back is always a big thing for me, and I'm still a coach. I'm fucking every time I'm in the gym, I'm helping someone with a technique, or I'm giving advice, or it's on my brain. I'm not just an MMA fighter, and I'm a martial artist at heart, you know what I mean? And I'll always help people no matter what, like, and especially teammates. And the amount of teammates that come to me for advice within martial arts, or even in the sport, or with anything, I'm always there for them, do you know what I mean? And I'm very thankful for that as well, that they would trust me with stuff like this, you know what I mean? So,
Kiefer, just off the back of Caoilte's question, and by no means am I trying to get you to retire, but do you have an idea of how much longer you do want to fight for?
Till the day I die. That's what I'm gonna die in the cage. Yeah, that's my goal. Yeah, I'll hang them up when I'm meant to hang them up. I'll never retire properly. Yeah, I'm going out on my shield, boys. Yeah, I'm built different to people. I'm not the same. I'm not human, mate. I'm telling you. This isn't like, I'm 35, I'll be 36, I'm gonna fuck you. I'll be in that. I'll be fighting. I'll be swinging from the hip until I can't swing from the hip no more. Do you know what I mean? So people say things like, you should retire instead of getting retired. Yeah, well, come at me and try retire me. Yeah, that's my buzz. I'll be in the middle of the cage, biting down, swinging. You know what I mean? So that's my plan. And that's the only way I know. So as of right now, there's no plan on me retiring. You know what I mean? Now again, that could change. As I said, it's like this, boys, yeah? It's ups and downs in this mad fucking sport. I could retire after next week. I could just go, you know what? I'll do something else. Who knows? That's just the way life is. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to enjoy it, I'm just trying to enjoy this next fight, you know what I'm saying? And take it like that, as opposed to thinking too far ahead.
Absolutely. Like, I think any of the like content or interviews I've seen you done, or videos you put out lately, you seem to be speaking very level-headedly. Like, it almost seems like you've kind of found this like peace, or so. I don't know if it's just because you maybe fell out of love with the sport and then found the passion again. But when you're talking about, look, I realize you're saying you're going to fight forever there, but at the same time, I have heard you say, look, it's a window. It's a window that you have, and I'm going to enjoy it to the maximum. I hear so many fighters, or the stories of so many fighters, where their whole identity is wrapped up in being a fighter. And then when it comes to they're 40, they're 50, they're 60 years old, they just kind of lose themselves a little bit. Do you think about that, or can you allow yourself to think about, Kiefer Crosbie, 60 years old? What does that look like? At some point the body is gonna say no more. Maybe not the mind, but the body at some point will slow down.
He has been saying no more the past 10 years, for fuck's sake. I'm broke up. We're all in bits. This sport wrecks you, man. But my identity is I'm a father, yeah? I'm a father first before everything. And I'll be a father forever. Do you know what I mean? So that's my identity. I get to do this. This isn't like something I have to do. I don't have to fight. I'm all good. I could make far more money doing anything else than doing this. I could be way more relaxed, way more calm, way fatter and eating shit and happier than the lifestyle I have to live. And, early nights and the horrible training sessions I have to do, man. You wouldn't believe the work we put in. Like, you actually wouldn't, unless you've done it yourself, you actually wouldn't actually believe the work ethic we put into this sport. Like, it's sickening, yeah. But it's not my identity, really. You know what I mean? I am a fighter, yeah, cool. But I'm also a father, and I've other shit going on. I'm not just this bleeding UFC fighter, and that's it. And if I have to walk away, it'll kill me forever. Not really. Like, life is short, man. There's so much other stuff we can all do. You can't just hang on that forever. But I think people do get wrapped up in that, yeah, definitely, especially with fighting. Fighters have this mad ego that takes over the whole life. And it's like that movie, The Wrestler. Did you ever see that film, The Wrestler?
Yeah.
Similar kind of situation. You just can't walk away, man. I'll walk away from it if I want to walk away from it. Do you know what I mean? And I think I'm strong enough to do that in my mind. Like, right now, I don't want to walk away from it. I'm dying to sprint towards it, and I'm dying to get into this cage. And I'm dying to get. I want him to hit me. I want to be broke up. I want to break him up. I want a war. I want 15 minutes of madness next week. I want that. I'm not afraid of that. I love it. I fucking love it. You know what I mean? It's not like, you know what I mean? It's hard to even explain. Like, some people that want that. I want that. I want that historic mad fight that everyone's going to talk about for 20 years. And you have to walk towards the fire instead of away from the fire for that. You know what I mean? That's who I am. And that's why I have a huge name in Ireland. And that's why I'm a fan favorite every time I fight, you know. And it's not just, it's a genuine love of that. I love fighting like this. You know what I mean? And I know he's tall and he's awkward and he's rangy and he thinks he can fancy himself on the feet. And I'm going to be coming out trying to take his chin off from the second the bell rings. And that's just who I am. And I'm guarantee everyone's going to be excited about it, you know. And in years to come, and I'm not doing that anymore, we can all look back and go, he was an animal. He was fucking unbelievable. And he was exciting and he was one of the greats. And that's what I want, you know what I mean? So, long may it last, Andy, yeah? Stop trying to fucking retire me, will you?
Oh, no, I'm not.
I'll be looking up fucking nursing homes next week now.
I'll send you on a few links. We had young Ger Harris on our last episode, and I know that you were out in Thailand.
He's my Thailand buddy, yeah. He's me bestie from Thailand, him, yeah. With dangerous duo, us two, yeah.
So that's really what I kind of wanted to ask you about. Was he told us one of the wildest stories I've ever heard in my life, one of the funniest things, where he's running around in a dress, stealing some poor Thai woman's baby, and then going to corner in the show. What was this trip like with him?
He's do you know what? Like, obviously, I know Jerry years, you know what I mean? And I know a lot of people here from this sport, but sometimes you don't spend a lot of time with them, do you know what I mean? And obviously, when we were over there together, we were with each other every day, all day, you know what I mean? We were doing 2-3 training sessions a day, eating in between, food at night, just having a buzz, you know, and he's just a fucking great lad, yeah. And we had some buzz, yeah. We had some buzz. I won't speak about it too much. I don't be getting anyone in trouble. But apart from robbing babies and wearing dresses and cornering people in Patong, yeah, that's probably the dumbed down version of the madness.
The PG.
Yeah, but he's up this week, actually. I'm looking forward to seeing him, man. And I tell you what, another thing, I never seen him training. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, we don't train the same gym, so I wouldn't see him actively on the mat. So I actually trained with him a good bit. We've done boxing rounds together. I know the weight difference is big, but we even grappled together, man. He's legit. He's high level. Like, he's UFC material. Absolutely UFC material. I couldn't believe how good he was. I knew he was really good, but you know, when you see someone sparring and you train with him, man, he's legit. So I'm predicting a first round knockout on the weekend for him, and I think he should just get a shot at the UFC, to be honest with you. He's another bloke that ticks all the boxes. He's not just a one trick pony lad. He'd be a big name in the UFC, like that. Do you know what I mean? I think so, and I'd like to see him get a shot, yeah.
Ger was saying when he was over, obviously the training, you're getting banked out, and some of the, you know, the fighters and the mad and everything. And I noticed, I guess the most common name that springs to mind is Volkanovski, and being able to share the mats with lads like that. But what was the experience like from a training perspective and having all those different bodies, those different looks from all over the world in there?
Yeah, it was good. It's good to do that every now and then. You know, you jump in and you don't know people you're training with, and there was a big target on my head on that mat. Yeah, everyone wanted to train with me and spar me, and obviously you have to be careful because you don't want to be getting injured and, you know, get into gym wars. And I had a few scraps now, yeah, but it was all good. I came out the better of all of them, so I'm all good. But no, it was good to mix it up with different people. Definitely, the coaches were brilliant. You know what I mean? Obviously, the Hickman brothers, mad high level. Got to train Michael Savas a lot. I'm sure you've seen his fight last week at the Toy Box where he's an animal. And Brad Vidal, another great UFC fighter. And I sparred Volkanovski. We done some boxing sparring, and we done like an hour session as well of like drills, and we had a good chat about fighting and just about, like, you know, just prize fighting in general and the UFC. And he gave me good advice about stuff like that. And you know what I mean? And coming off a loss, he was talking about the Islam loss, and I took a lot from that, you know what I mean? And he was talking to me about the loss. So he came off, he was there, he was actually there to support your man Kevin that I fought. He was their teammates, and he just gave me good advice about shit like that, you know what I mean? And I really appreciated that. He's he's a top lad. He's a sound lad. And yeah, we had some good rounds as well. I learned a lot from them, and it was just good to mix it up with all these people. Yeah, it's good to do that. I think it's healthy as a martial artist to jump in and mix it up with different bodies and different, high level martial artists. And he's such a fucking veteran as well. You're only gonna gain big time from that, you know what I mean? And I did, and I loved it. And I'm definitely going back to Banktown soon. Definitely, yeah. I'll try to go after this fight. I'd say maybe towards the end of the year in there somewhere and get another stint in for sure. Yeah.
I know you probably wouldn't give away too much of the details, but with Volk, obviously he's used to competing against lads who be a lot taller and he'd go up the division as well with lightweight, but he's always kind of, I guess, the shorter man at the weight class he's fighting at. And obviously the last opponent, your next opponent, they're all a lot taller. Was there any advice he was able to give you for, I guess, even finer, smaller details that you mightn't have had, maybe not have had, but fine tuning one or two things that might help you in there?
Yeah, look, I was talking to him about actually that as well, and he said the same thing. He was always kind of a smaller lad, do you know what I mean? So it's a story of his life as well. He's a smaller lad, especially at lightweight as well, and featherweight. Like he was a big boy over there. I tell you, he was a unit, man. He was about 80 odd kilos. Do you know what I mean? He's a bit shorter than me, but he's a big block of a man. Yes, solid, strong as fuck. Yeah, just talking in general about fighting. His fight IQ is very high level. And obviously, I never met him and talked to him, and he has it on the brain 24/7. Do you know what I mean? He's an obsessed man with this, and he's an all-in type of lad. You can tell by even being around him and talking to him and training him. He's all in. Do you know what I mean? He's championship material. He has that in his brain, and yeah, I got a lot from it. You know what I mean? And it was good to meet him and train with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like an incredibly valuable experience, especially considering the spell that he's been going through in his career right now, coming off a couple of tough losses. One of the themes of your camp and Shauna's camp this time has been, it seems you're putting in a lot of work together. I see the photos you down in Paddy's, but looks like doing jiu-jitsu in the ISI, the strength and conditioning sessions. How helpful is that? Obviously, the two of you, two Irish fighters, two Dublin fighters, you've known each other for years. Is it helpful when you're in the same scenario? You're both after coming off a debut loss in the UFC. Is it kind of almost like a backs against the wall, us against the world? Like to have that experience and share that training camp with one of your compatriots. How helpful has that been for you?
Yeah, yes and no. Look, at the end of the day, it was only Peter Carley. I done a chat with him today talking about, I taught the first class, and then 6 years later, the two of us are on the same card, and it's really cool. And I only really realised that last week when I was in the gym. Someone said that to me, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" I never really thought of it like that. It's like I coached for our first MMA class, and now here we are sharing the same card, and it just clicked. I was like, wow, that's actually an amazing story, and it's cool to be part of her journey as well. And again, like you said earlier, I am an OG in this sport, and shit like that really does kind of solidify it. You know what I mean? I've been around for a long time, and it's cool to share the card with her. But I mean, as selfish as this sounds, it is a selfish sport, and it's my walk and it's her walk, and it's separate. You know what I mean? And I really want her to do well, and I'm sure she really wants me to do well. But really, for me, I'm just focused on making this walk and getting my hand raised by any means. So it's kind of just like you have them blinkers on and you just have to get the job done. Whether even with your corner and your teammates, you're in there on your own. You know what I mean? There's no one holding your hand in there. You got to go in there and get the fucking job done. And but yeah, sharing the card, it would be cool to even have her over there fight week and Paddy over there fight week. He's a good friend of mine, and obviously, funny enough, Paddy was my first ever coach. When I walked into SBG all them years ago in 2011, I went in to do a jiu-jitsu class in the morning time, and he was coaching. I think he was covering as well, funny enough. And he said, "Oh, well, what are you doing later on? I have a class on tonight, 6 o'clock, float down to MMA." And I was like, "Yeah." And I went to it, and he was like, "You're way too good to be in this class. This is the beginner's class. You should be on the pro team." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to be. That's my plan. That's why I'm here." And he's like, "Well, do you want me to have a chat with it?" And he went and had a chat and got me on the pro team, and here we are now. So it's kind of cool, mad full circle job, and it would be cool to have. Obviously, he's my teammate. Still to this day, I class him as a teammate, and I've seen his career, being gone from the bottom to the UFC and doing great things, and he inspired me to do great. And now it's cool to have him around and see me do great things. So it's kind of cool, do you know what I mean? Like that, having your mates and your teammates still rocking around, and hopefully we can just go out next week and represent and get the job done, and it'll be a green, white and orange weekend, boys.
Obviously, you mentioned there, chatting to Pizzi and the clip that he put out, I saw it was brilliant about, you chatting about
Yeah.
Coach Shauna in her first class. To see her then, like you were literally there, her very first jiu-jitsu class, to seeing her now where she's in the UFC, like how do you view kind of her growth in the sport? Like what's the difference between her back then and her now as she heads into another UFC fight this weekend?
Yeah, well, like I said in the PET interview, she done the jiu-jitsu class. I was coaching the MMA class, and I just told her to jump in, and then she did. And I knew obviously she's a very accomplished kickboxer, you know what I mean? And she has so much experience in kickboxing. She has hundreds of kickboxing fights, so she knows how to compete. She knows how to fight. She knows what the nerves are like. So I remember thinking even after that class, like she's never grappled around before, but it was almost like she knew how to grapple and wrestle straight away. Do you know what I mean? Because she was good at taking information off a coach and doing it. And that's like myself. I'm doing martial arts my whole life since I'm 10. I'm a very good learner. I can learn. Like you tell me a technique, boom, I'll get it done. I'm not going to stand there scratching my head for 15 minutes. I'm very good at taking the info in. She was too. So I think after that first class, I remember thinking, like, if she just learned how to wrestle and grapple, man, she'd be a big deal. And here we are, and you can even see it. It's funny because even in our grappling style, I see Paddy in her. I've trained with Paddy, since 2011, and I've trained with Paddy like for years and grappled Paddy, and he's taught me loads of, especially jiu-jitsu. He's a grappling fanatic, you know what I mean? And I can see it in her style. I can see him. You know what I mean? I can see his guard. I can see the way she goes for takedowns. That's Paddy all over. Do you know what I mean? And she has an amazing guard. She's very flexible from the kickboxing and stuff, so she can throw for triangles and arm bars nice. And I can see Paddy's style translating into her style. And other students of Paddy's, you know what I mean? But it's cool to see, yeah. It's brilliant.
It is. That's amazing to hear. Like the lineage, I suppose, coming through. It's pure martial arts, right? Right. We're almost. I promise this is almost over. We've had you for far too long. But Sam Patterson, you spoke earlier on there. It seems like you're coming into this looking for a war, essentially. That's the way you were talking earlier on. But I'd say you're probably sick of fighting these guys who are long, they're rangy. Obviously, the Kevin Jousset fight, you've got Patterson now. He's a long fighter. I've seen you, mixing up with Will Fleury, Owen Sheriff. I think he's about fucking 7'2" or something.
The big boy.
Yeah. What's the mentality and what's the plan coming into this one?
Look, it is what it is. You know what I mean? A fight's a fight. It's funny. Someone said to me a few weeks ago, like, you're not just fighting someone who's 6'4". He's fighting someone who's 5'11". You know what I mean? And if you watch the last person to knock him clean unconscious, he was 5'8" and he was a lightweight. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe someone shorter's his kryptonite. You know what I'm saying? It kind of goes both ways. Yeah, I never want to see anyone over 6 foot for the rest of me bleeding life after this training camp because I'm sick of sparring all the tall people. But at the same time, it is what it is. I'm sure he's probably like, sparring all the small, stocky, heavy-handed, fighters in his gym. So it kind of just goes both ways. I think he's a good fighter. He's tricky. He's experienced. Good jiu-jitsu. Long kickboxer. Nothing I haven't seen a million times before. I know for sure I'm training with better strikers. I know for sure I'm training with better grapplers. It's just going to come down to on the night. My timing's going to have to be his range. And my IQ is going to have to be better than his fight IQ. And it's going to be a puzzle. You know what I mean? And on both ends, for both of us. And whoever makes the smarter decisions the quickest will win. And I believe that'll be me. So, as I said, preparation is the most important part of fighting, and I'm prepared. And that's all I asked for the UFC. Is like, next time you give me a fight, just give me notice. Just give me some notice, man. That's all I want. You know what I mean? I don't care who it is. Just give me a bit of time. You know what I mean? To get ready, like. And I'm ready to go. So it's gonna be a good fight. Every fight I'm in is a good fight, and you know that. So I'm sure you'll be tuning in, yeah.
Obviously, with like a win here could be huge, not just obviously for you, but for Irish MMA in general and for the scene, and for, I guess, what we've been banging the drum about for so long is a UFC Dublin. And we've been, it seems as though it would have been happening, but do you think that a win for you and all the Irish on this card, and then it could nearly prompt the UFC to come back and actually have that card? Is that something that not the pinnacle, but be one of the main things for you while you're fighting the UFC to get them back?
100%. There's goals. There's long-term goals, short-term goals, for everything. And like obviously, my short-term goal right now is to stay safe, stay good right now, make the weight, win the fight. My long-term goal is to get the UFC back to Dublin. I fought in the Tree Arena 8 times, and I'd love to get the UFC back to Dublin. And it'll be the first thing out of my mouth after this win next week. Is it has to happen. This week is the 10-year anniversary of UFC Dublin, the last time they were here. So like, come on, let's get it going. Do you know what I mean? I've sold out the Tree Arena myself. Do you know what I mean? Multiple times. So. And the UFC will sell it out anyway, even if I wasn't on the card. Do you know what I mean? That's not the point. But I just imagine how excited the Irish people would be if I was on UFC Dublin. Do you know what I mean? It'd be something else. So that is a long-term goal of mine. It's definitely a dream and a vision of mine. It's something that I'm really, really gunning for. And like a win next week, absolutely. All I'll be talking about is it has to happen. It has to happen. It has to happen now. Let's go. It's done. It's a wrap. Like, do you know what I mean? It's never been a better time to have it back. And that's why I'll be screaming for that, yeah. So UFC Dublin, baby, coming soon.
Kiefer, can't thank you enough for the time today. It's brilliant to hear you in positive spirits. I'm delighted to see you get a full camp and a fair crack this time. And it's beautiful to see three Irish fighters on the UFC card. It's been a while since we've had that. So I am absolutely buzzing. I know Caoilte is excited. Fans could tune in Saturday, 27th of July, UFC 304 in Manchester. Kiefer Crosbie taking on Sam Patterson. And thanks a million for the time today, Kiefer. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much, lads. Appreciate it. Yes. Yeah.
Great stuff from Kiefer Crosbie, who we thank again for joining us on the show today. Caoilte, he sounds great. Like, he sounds like he's really dialed in. He sounds like he's coming for a war here with Sam Patterson by the sounds of things. This is a really, really important fight for him, right? I mean, he had the short notice debut against Kevin Jousset, having to travel all across the world, but now he has the name, he has the date well in advance. He can prep properly. He's not traveling, dealing with jet lag. He's coming into this in phenomenal shape. What are you expecting from Kiefer coming in here against Sam Patterson?
Yeah, look, it's not going to be an easy task by no means. Like, Sam Patterson's a tough customer. We've seen him in Brave, we've seen him at the Contender Series. He's obviously 2 fights into his UFC career as well. Mixed results, but he got a finish last time out. I think that was his first trip up to welterweight as well. So it's very hard to know how Sam Patterson will look in there. But from Kiefer, look, he's coming in fully prepared. And the last time we saw a fully prepared Kiefer Crosbie was against Alex Cowboy Oliveira. So the one that we saw that time, that was impressive. So I'd be expecting a similar Kiefer Crosbie, but even more clinical and even more evolved than the last time as well. So I'm just happy to see him get a fight where he has full notice, doesn't have to have mad traveling left, right, and center, and is able to draw a crowd as well, because I imagine there'll be a lot of Irish in the arena for him as well. And going to be a good fight. I'm looking forward to it.
I think that it's been great to see. Like, I've really enjoyed seeing the posts that you see pop up on Instagram and things like that of Kiefer and Shauna training together. Obviously Shauna has Paddy Hoolan in her corner, and a week ago, I think it was the 10-year anniversary of UFC Dublin. Like, you may be younger than me, Caoilte, but I am much more of a Johnny come lately to this game, to Irish MMA, than you are. To see, from having experienced that first wave of Irish, and now to see, the likes of Kiefer and Shauna prepping side by side, getting ready for a UFC card, which they'll share with another Irishman, Caolan Loughran. What's that like for you to see again? Like, do you feel there's a bit of a resurgence again for the Irish in the UFC? How are you feeling about it all?
I feel like something's brewing, put it that way. Like, there's Ian Gary's on a rise, McGregor's coming back. I know the fight was cancelled, whatever, but he's coming back. We've got 3 Irish on a card. We've got the Danni McCormack news, which we'll speak about later on. I just feel like something's brewing, and I'm really excited. I feel like we could, this could be the year where the Irish push on, and we might eventually get a show back to Dublin that we've been crying out for. But first, they got to get the job done in Manchester. And wow, what a card! It feels there's something special about it. There just feels like there's something very special about it, especially because it's like the new wave. This seems like the new wave that's come through.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is no easy fight for Kiefer, right? Like Sam Patterson, we've seen him, we've seen him beating Cian Caoilte earlier on in his career. Like John Gooden has been high on this guy for a long, long time. I think they've trained out of the same gym. He possesses a lot of danger here for Kiefer coming into this.
He does. That long range, it was going to be he's a very tall lad and very, very good striking. Uses the range well, some good grappling as well. Like he's very well rounded. He's a lad that deserves to be in the UFC, to be honest with you. But I don't know how he's going to handle if Kiefer gets inside the pocket. I think it's a very well matched fight. That's the one thing I take away from this. It's a very well matched fight. I think with Kiefer might have a point to prove as well and try and get that win back for Cian Caoilte after all those years as well. So a little bit of extra juice to this fight, I think. But look, overall, never going to be an easy fight in the UFC. And this is, it's a tough one for Kiefer. I don't think Sam Patterson's on the level of his last opponent, did you say? But
oh yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So I think it's a better matchup for him this time because he's not being thrown to the wolves like he was the last time, to be fair.
I think it's great to hear him coming in, all guns blazing and like kind of talking about turning this into a war, because I feel like that's the game plan here against, when you're in against a long rangey guy, to just get in the inside and just make it a brawl. And while I think Sam Patterson is incredibly dangerous, I don't see him in those types of, when I see his danger, I see him striking from the outside or using his grappling, hunting for submissions. It's not really in a, blood and guts war where you're kind of throwing caution to the wind that I envision him or picture him when it comes to winning a fight in the UFC. Like if the fight does go there, like, do you feel like that favors Kiefer in this?
Yes, I think if he manages to close distance, chop up those legs. I think if he manages to chop up get some calf kicks in early, because Kiefer kicks like a truck. We've seen it before. So, or kicks like a horse, hits like a truck, kicks like a horse. So I think if he can start chopping down those legs early, get on the inside, make a brawl out of it, make it ugly, make it his type of fight. And I think he can get the finish if he can make it that type of fight. Make it the fight that Kiefer wants it to be. And I think it's there for him.
I'll put you on the spot here now. Is this a must-win for Kiefer Crosbie to save his UFC career?
No, I don't think so. Because he took a short notice fight before, and with the kind of Irish interest that they're taking nowadays, I think it'd be better for the UFC to keep onto them. And in saying that, it could depend on how the fight goes and how he looks on the night. But no, I think he would be given a third fight even if he got a loss here. Yeah,
it's mad, like, because I feel like a number of years ago, the instant, it's almost instantly like, oh yeah, like of course, like, you lose your first two, maybe not two, maybe like that's the
three
third.
now.
Yeah, but like it seems to have changed over the years, and I think to your point, like I do think that the UFC, they do put a bit of weight in, if you scratch their back now, they definitely don't scratch your back to the level that you scratch their back. But I do think that if you come in and help them out, basically being a company man and taking short notice opportunities and things like that, I do think it stands to you. But I think this is a winnable fight for Kiefer at the same time. So we may not even need to consider this scenario now. But someone else who's in the same boat as Kiefer, we mentioned her already, training side by side, is Shauna Bannon, and a short notice replacement here for Shauna. Have you looked at this? So she was originally scheduled. She was scheduled to be facing Ravina Oliveira here. She's now taking on Alice Ardeline. Have you seen much of Alice, and what do you make of her?
I have seen her record, and I have seen one fight, and that's about it. And the fight I saw was the one I imagine most people saw. You see Weili Zhang on her record, you're instantly going to go watch that fight. And look, Weili Zhang was always going to be, before the UFC, she looked incredible. A world beater back then. No wonder they signed her up so quickly after. And it was, from that fight alone, it was tough viewing that for a while, to be honest with you.
It's I suppose it's tough, like, for anyone to go in there. Obviously, it's not. It was Weili Zhang
judging off a really hard fight here, like.
Yeah, it's Weili Zhang when she's 4-1. She's not the UFC champion at that point, but like she's also the one who became the UFC champion and is an all-time great in women's mixed martial arts. So yeah, like it's a tough litmus test there. And she definitely showed I thought she showed some grit and some heart in that fight, but it was absolutely one-way traffic from bell to bell. Obviously, she's gone on a win streak here. I think she's got, a couple of are listed as exhibition MMAs, or it says the fighter, some sort of reality show perhaps, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm counting all the numbers out today on this show, by the way. A 7-fight win streak. I think 5 of those fights are full MMA rules anyway. But you look at the record, the competition, it's not great. So there are some question marks, I guess, over her here. But to be honest, like I don't think the story coming in here is her, at least from the Irish perspective, it's Shauna Bannon. Like, she went into that last fight against Bruna Brazil with all the eyes of the world on her. It seemed like they were really putting her in a spotlight. It didn't go her way. It wasn't like one-way traffic at all, but it was a decision loss and one that she seemed to take. I wouldn't say badly, but it was like it's a bitter pill to swallow when you've been put in this spotlight and everything you're working towards, and she's been so active and so successful on the regional scene, and then it doesn't go your way, and so she's had to kind of pick herself back up and get to work, and she's been a lot quieter on the media front, which I think is brilliant from Shauna ahead of this one. But like, this is a really, really important fight for her, right?
It is, yeah. And last time I think she spoke about it before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but she spoke about how it all went very fast, and it just like the whole week, from being out the back, warming up and going to the cage, it all went very fast. So I think the fact that she had kind of that experience and knows what to expect and is able to plan, prepare, and all these things I imagine she's done before this one, I think it'll stand to her. And like, this is against someone who's coming in on short notice, who wouldn't have experienced these big bright lights, that fast paced non-stop UFC. You're in getting warmed up and you're out in the cage in no time, really. So I think that will stand to her. I think that'll be a massive boost of kind of experience for Shauna going into this one. But by no means is it an easy fight. It's a very tough. It's going to be a tough battle out there for her, and it's one I think she can overcome. I think this could be the one, the breakout fight in the UFC, the one that she's been preparing for, waiting for, and by all means, she seems ready from going off social media. I agree with what you said about the not doing as much media, kind of not. I imagine she was drained the last time from doing the amount of interviews. She was very good for doing interviews last time, but seems to have taken a little bit of a step back, and hopefully it pays off, because it seems like she's been doing some incredible work ahead of this one.
Yeah, I mean, I remember speaking to her after the fight, and like I was very impressed by her willingness to kind of just peel the curtain back and be vulnerable and like express how much it was hurting her, the loss. And I just remember thinking there was almost like she seemed confused. Like it was like this whirlwind that had kind of happened, and like, from speaking about the walkout to being in the cage, and almost like an outer body experience. And I think that one of the traits that Shauna shows routinely in her fighting career is tenacity. Like, when she kind of puts her mind to something, she just goes for it. And I feel like she'll have been stewing on this loss, and like just in the back of her head the entire time, because this is it. Like, that was a year ago now. Like, that's a long time to sit in the loss. We've heard Caolan Loughran, who we'll talk about now momentarily, talking about like that feeling of sitting on a loss and wanting to get out there and get that opportunity. And I believe Shauna was hoping for her to be out prior to this, but I think she'll have been dissecting every single aspect of that fight and putting the building blocks in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. When you see her walk out into the cage here on Saturday night in Manchester, are you expecting to see a different looking Shauna Bannon in how she approaches this fight than the last one? Oh,
completely. I'd say there's lots to take from the last one, which you learn from, between maybe some of she could be much heavier grappling. She might get to show some of her grappling. She might sit in the punches a little more this time as well, because I think that's something that was missing the last time, that little bit of spice in the punches and just kind of letting the opponent know straight away is like, here for business. And I think she'll look a lot different. I think she'll be a bit more clinical this time around. And as I mentioned before, I think the experience from the previous fight is going to pay massive dividends in this one, and how she approaches it, and how she game plans it to get the win.
I mean, something, you know, we've talked about this being kind of must wins for Shauna and Kiefer. A man who lost his UFC debut was Caolan Loughran. Now, he had a brilliant performance last time out. He's gotten that monkey off his back. He's gotten the UFC win, and now he's coming in here. And my God, we were originally excited for this one, but I haven't actually spoken to you properly since this. Jake Hadley is stepping in at short notice. We've got Cage Warriors bantamweight champion versus former Cage Warriors flyweight champion in a bantamweight scrap here. And my God, I think this is way better than the original matchup. Are you what was your reaction when you found out this news?
Couldn't believe it. I was shook. I did not think Jake Hadley, who is on a 2-fight losing streak, would take a fight a division up against Caolan Loughran. Unbelievable. I love the matchup. I think the shit talk will be real in the build up. It has the England versus Ireland kind of angle to it as well. There's just so much going for this fight, and stylistically it's brilliant. The two of them, very good grapplers, and their striking's improving as well. I can feel like it's just going to be an absolute banger of a fight. I'm buzzing. I wish they matched it like this from the very beginning, but yeah, look, we finally got it. What do you think?
It's fantastic. It's fantastic, and fair play to both lads, because to be honest, this is a tough fight for both of them. I remember watching Jake Hadley in Cage Warriors, and I think you know what? I used to always get Jake Hadley and Jack Cartwright mixed up. So I may be thinking of Jack Cartwright here, but about a one-night tournament. But anyway, regardless, it applies to both of them. Jake Hadley as a flyweight, he hits like a truck. So I think him coming up to bantamweight, I don't think there's necessarily going to be a huge difference perhaps in the or at least in the power. I think Jake can trade with bantamweights, but I do think that Caolan will have the upper hand here when it comes to the grappling, and I think that could be a potential route to victory here for him. But she's I am so excited for this fight. I'm interested. Do you know what? I'm interested to hear what Caolan thinks of this fight. I'm interested to hear what his reaction was when he got this news, and how he thinks this fight's going to go, and if he agrees with our assessment. So, do you know what? Let's send it over to Caolan. Quilch is going to take it away now, and we'll be back to you to chat about Danni McCormack, Cage Legacy, and a whole lot more pretty soon. So check this out.
Just days away from UFC 304, where Caolan the Don Loughran returns to the UFC cage. He joins us today on the Auld Triangle. Caolan, how are you getting on today?
Never better, lads. Never better. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Now it's been quite a busy few days, few weeks for you. All these changes, everything. You must be getting used to it at this point.
It's a mad game. It's a crazy game, and it'll break a weak man. That's the only way to look at it. Prepare diligently for the guy, but I always say, until the guy's in front of you, you almost can't believe you're fighting him until you're in the cage with him. Injuries happen. If you prepare correctly, they happen. But I was just eager to compete, lad, and the UFC knew. Then Sean Shelby knew, whoever they came with, I was gonna go. So, lad, is what it is. What can I do?
With what happened before, did you have to adjust your preparations, or did you make any adjustment in preparations at all, so that you anticipated potentially someone pulling out and having another opponent, or was there a game plan from the very off from the previous guy, or for the previous guy?
Oh, absolutely, it's a game plan. I don't know. I texted that guy several times. You're gonna pull out because he kept putting up stories of him drinking at the weekends and stuff, and he kept talking to me. I was like, lad, you should think of a pull out, and then I just think he's got I don't know. It just seems like he's got problems going on. That guy, if I'm being 100% honest. So I told him several times, I think you're gonna pull out. Lo and behold, the fucker did pull out. I had 10.5 weeks preparing for a southpaw boxer, and then last Thursday, my last spar, he pulled out on the Wednesday night, and I goes to Colin goes to me, but I was thinking the same thinking as sparring with kid Danny Bott. I was like, May as well go orthodox and shoot them, my lad, because that's probably what's going to happen here. Thankfully, they got another southpaw, Hadley. And as soon as I heard Hadley's name, I got a lift. I got a massive lift because way bigger fight, not too dissimilar in style. Ramon hits harder, probably a cleaner boxer, harder to take down, but when you get him down, not as good a threat on the ground as Hadley is. Hadley's got slicker jiu-jitsu. But either was a game plan, but I'm quite fortunate. Not like my debut where it was complete different level, complete different style. This is not too dissimilar, if I'm being brutally honest. So as good as you're ever going to get, really. Like,
Yeah, and like when you're receiving that call and finding out about, you know, your opponent's just pulled out, you're nearly predicting it all along, as you mentioned there. Like, when you get that call, is there almost like, were you expecting it all along? And what was the roller coaster of emotions like during all of that?
it's just a crazy game, lad. You just can't. It is what it is. Like, you can control what you control. That's it. I really, it's like I be in my priv and my Snapchat all the time. And I was like, I almost just talked to it and I'm videoing myself live almost. It's part of the game. Injuries happen. I'm sure it's not the last time it'll happen. But I was ready to fight, lad. This the only way to make it in this game. Look at Alex Poatan. You either have it or you fucking don't. Step in on 2 weeks' notice and go in and put men clean out. You know what I mean? So injuries happen. I was very, very lucky to get a 10-week block of training dialed in. That I had a couple of niggles, of course, but nothing where I had to alter training. I had a funeral in the middle of that. I had a blitz wee bit as you'll train material at home, but really for 10 weeks, I could literally tell you every single day what I'd done, and that's uniquely rare. My heart rate's in the 30. My rest heart rate's in the 30s. Flying and sparring. I just wanted to compete, so whoever the UFC came, me lad, that flew my rab in, like it wasn't going to be a, oh shit, should we think about this one? It was a yes for me, you know what I mean?
I do, yeah. And there was all this talk online. I think we saw some Spanish guy, Hetcher Sosa, was mentioned. I think people just wanted to fight you at this point. But when you got the name Jake Hadley, what was the reaction? Seeing that UK name makes it an even bigger fight nearly.
Oh, 100% a bigger fight. The buzz and all on my phone. I've seen Adam Catterall put up today, expects fight of the night or in his podcast and that. And I just got a really did get a lift. It's a bigger fight, 100%. Domestic clash, Ireland versus England. Oh my God, Ireland versus England in the UK. Can't really beat that. Like, I obviously know Hadley. I've had nothing but positive interaction with him. I half get on with the guy. But I let it give me a buzz, like lethal. Let's fucking go is what I was thinking, you know.
And the fact that you obviously had, you know, you've known him. Have you trained with him before or anything? Was there ever like cross training between the two years before? Does that make it even a little bit harder, the fact you know each other?
It definitely does make I'm not as trying this week. Like, I'm going to try and break his fucking jaw and end his UFC career. That's my plan, to be honest. I'm not trying this week, like, but I actually do like the guy, but there's absolutely no problem. If I properly fuck him up, I'm happy with it, but that way. I never trained with him, but Tiernan did about 3 weeks ago. Tiernan's over in must be about a month ago now. He was over in Renegade. I never trained with Hadley. I actually had been texting him that I'd like to train, because there's the thing, I was fighting a southpaw and I was thinking regionally who the fuck could I spar. That would have been funny if that had happened, but I didn't actually go through that. I never trained him, but I was saying on the podcast just there, like I literally put up an interview, a picture or video of me in the gym, and he was texting me the last 2 weeks ago. He's like, "How heavy are you, lads? You're looking big." And then like 3 or 4 days later, fucking I'm fighting the guy. So no, I've only ever had like it's mad one, isn't it? Like, I've only ever had like positive interaction with Hadley. Seems like a sound kid, but I'm gonna fuck him up this weekend. Like, no problems there.
It's a great fight, isn't it? Like, I mean, like,
It is.
You've got two former Cage Warriors champions. Obviously, like, did you guys kind of? You didn't really have a crossover. He was already gone by the time you would have gotten to the champion stage of Cage Warriors, right?
He was got and again, like, the reason I was because I never thought of him as a potential opponent. Really, so I'm always civil to the guys like at shows and that I don't think of myself fighting until I met him that APFC, and he got me and he was talking about how bad his weight cut was for 25. And I mind saying to Colin was like, if he comes to 35, they could probably make that on like a domestic show. I remember saying that. He talked about a bad weight cut 25. He's not he is. It probably was a bad cut for 25, but I never had any but positive with him, to be honest.
Caolan, one of the things that I was kind of thinking about as I saw this one, like the story of your career early on, like you were having to deal with, questions about your opponents, like lads calling you a can crusher, all this type of stuff. And then the complete contrast to your UFC entry where you're taking on Taylor Lapilus on like short notice. You're now, I think, like, I don't know what you think if Hadley's a tougher matchup, but like definitely a bigger fight, and taking him on at short notice. Like, is this kind of like it's not, I don't know if funny is the right word to me, but it's like, Jesus, it's night and day compared to like your early career where you're kind of this label of the can crusher, but now like it's the complete opposite in the UFC.
I never cared about that. It's like, people. It's funny, like you're talking about, like it was always like Irish guys used to always slag me, because I used to always slag them when I was coming up in the scene. I slag all the gyms and stuff because they were my competition, so naturally they didn't like me, and their teammates didn't like me and stuff. And then I had beat guys with like bad records, so it was fair enough for them to tear into me. But now everyone gets on with me in Ireland. I'm not fighting them guys, so I'm not slagging them. So it's I only ever hear positive. I just always fought whoever was offered the fight, lad. I honestly never turned down a fight in my life. A lot of guys regionally at that time turned me down, so what was I going to do? Never compete ever. Do you know what I mean? I had to fight somebody. A lot of them were like last, like not even like lot. I'll tell you, I had a fight in the fucking over here in Liverpool where the guy didn't show up and another one replaced him. So like, what the fuck am I to do? Like that was the stage I was at there before Cage Wars, but. I'll fight anyone, lad. I back my skills against any bantamweight on planet Earth, and I definitely back my skills against any flyweight on planet Earth. Put that way.
You backed him against any flyweight or any bantamweight, but how do you feel Jake Hadley's going to do at bantamweight after the stint he's had at flyweight?
I don't know, but it's going to start badly this Saturday, I tell you that much. I think he's stylistically, his style of grappling, coming up 100 to 100, coming up 10 pounds. I think I couldn't think of a much worse matchup for him. If he's going to like half go on his back, sit in his half guard and try and sweep. Like I'll say this openly because I'll tell you, like I tell you about fucking. I've never had a bantamweight in my life ever where I felt he's strong. Even when I went to America, when I get a grip of these guys, it's usually a shock to them. And then I remember training with Bruno one the weekend there, Bruno Silva, and after one session, he's like, "No, bro, you're too strong. You're too strong. I train with flyweights." So like I can't come into like the mentality like, oh, I'll just hit him once and he'll fall over. Oh, if I touch him, he'll go down. Like it's not that. He's a really good fighter. I rate Hadley. I've always liked watching him fight. I like his style, but any person ever fought with me or trained with me will know that you'd be doing very, 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 very fucking well to move up from 125 pounds and live with me. I am not going to take a back stab. I'm going to walk him down, go right through him. I don't see it lasting that long if I'm being... Like, again, I rate the guy. I think he's a skillful fighter, but I don't see it lasting that long if I'm being honest. I'm really, 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 really ready to go,
Caolan, one of the kind of stories coming into this one is obviously we've got 3 Irish on the card. This is the first time in a long time. We were racking our brains there earlier on, and we think it's 9 years ago or something like this when we last had 3 Irish. Kiefer and Shauna are coming into this in kind of not necessarily do or die fights, but they're must win at the same time. You've kind of already gotten that monkey off the back. Coming into this one, you had the debut loss. You going into the Pacheco fight. You had a similar mentality, obviously, coming in. Is it different coming into this one for you mentally?
I know exactly. I hit in Manchester tomorrow in the morning. And I know everything's going to happen backstage. I know the people I'm going to meet. I know what the cage feels like. I know what it's like to be in the UFC arena. I know Bruce Buffer announced me. I've seen it all. It doesn't take me long to get a claim. I remember like it was like Clan Wars was like the home, home venues, whatever you want to call it, when I was an amateur. And then Cage Wars became that very homely for me. And I'm very good at performing. Like, even if I don't won the Cage Wars title, if I was ever going to choke, I was going to choke there in Italy. Fucking that high pressure with 9-0 guy. So I'm good at performing. But when I was in the UFC octagon, like, even subconsciously, it's kind of like, oh, fuck me, this is happening. This is fucking happening now. Bruce Buffer's calling my name, and I'm in the crowd, and it's like, this is a fucking mad one this here. Like, it's fucking nuts. And I'm good at performing. And then Pacheco, I had the months of like drilling, being in the UFC cage, and I felt more home there. I'm happy I got the 15 minutes that time. And I know exactly what's going to go down here. I'm fighting a guy I know I can beat. I've seen the UFC octagon in my head every night I go to bed. So it's definitely a lot more comfortable and like natural for me. On them too, like I'm in no position to be giving anyone advice. I would just if you would want what I would say, what I took from that would be, think about the fighting. It's another fight. I mean, what benefit is there to putting pressure on that I need to win? You know what I mean? Let's think of it as another day in the gym. If this guy or girl came into the gym, what would you do to them? You fuck them up. You use your skills. So there's no benefit to thinking any bigger than that. I never see any benefit to thinking any external other than the opponent. Just go and enjoy it. Don't think of any monkey in your back. Think about the skills, and the rest take care of itself, won't it?
That's
I
exactly
know.
it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
100%. No,
Yeah.
after you.
Obviously, with you said there, you're a performer. You rise to the occasion. You've done it in it. You did it in Italy. We saw it. We've seen it in the UFC. Is there nearly not a comfort thing, but does it add a little bit? Does it make it a bit cooler, the fact that you're on such a big card and the fact that it's so close to where you're living now as well? You're only going down the road to Manchester, 30-minute drive.
Yeah. Right here in the Royal Albert Dock in Liverpool, some spot. Yeah, 100%. Lad, biggest card the UK has ever had is what I keep seeing. 2 champions, pay-per-view. And I always, every single time I do something that gets people talking, even this week, the fucking opponent changing, my phone was going off. I plan to steal the show, clean Hadley out. There's a lot of opportunities to the show because like even you said about cool, like being on the card like with a man like Leon Edwards. I've looked up that guy for a long time. I can't wait to see him fucking train all week and fight live. Obviously, Tom's got the strap, but then it's going to be like guys like Pimlet and Molly McCann, and like I don't rate them at all. They're absolutely fucking shite. There's a chance the Pimlet loses, so big performance for me on a big show's chance to steal the show. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I'm coming here to fucking blow up. I'm fighting the first televised fight at 1 o'clock, which is not overly bad time wise. First televised fight. It's going to be on every single pub in the UK and Ireland. Still on American pay-per-view times. American TV times. A big pay-per-view. This is literally why I moved here. This is why I'm sitting in Liverpool. This is what every single night I slept in the gym for 10.5 months. It was for nights like this. I'm gonna fucking kill Jake Hadley on Saturday night, and I can't wait for it. You know what I mean?
I think that like everything you said there, I as far as the opportunity for you to blow up, I completely agree with you, and I think that they already have like they place a stock in you. You know, you're fighting. You have an entertaining fighting style. You're not afraid to speak your mind. That's all on the individual side, and I know that fighting's an individual sport. But last week it was the 10-year anniversary of UFC Dublin. You know, an iconic moment in Irish MMA history. The fact that you're sharing a card here with 2 Irish fighters, does that mean something to you? And do you feel like that can also kind of build that collective momentum for Irish MMA?
Well, dreams come true is the first thing that would come to my mind there when you say that. I remember watching. I was in school and I couldn't afford a ticket for UFC Dublin, and I remember watching McGregor pop Brandao away, and I was in front of my fireplace in Kildress, Tyrone, Ireland, and that became my life goal. So, dreams come true. 10 years to the day. Any lad who has this dream, go for it. Any wee girl in Ireland has a dream, go for it, because it's even better than you dream. Like, being in the UFC is cooler than I ever even thought. So dreams come true is the first thing that comes there. It means a lot to me to be part of that. Like, of course I want these. I'm on my own journey. Like, I have these no Irish bantamweight that I have to beat. So of course I want to win Shauna Bannon as a wee child, just to fucking pay for Kiefer Crosbie as a kid. Like, I want him to fucking head kick KO again and get 50 grand. Of course, absolutely. I'm on my own path. But no, it means a lot, lad, and keep getting the wins. Why the fuck would they not come to Dublin? Even Ian's winning. Of course, it has to. I think logistically the Three Arena isn't good for the UFC, is what I've been told. But if we keep winning, lad, the demand's there. No one, no. Then Paris is good. Paris is fucking good. It's the hope for Europe at the minute, but like, even shitty Bellator fucking blows the roof off the Three Arena. Like, so what the fuck's the UFC gonna, like? Even like the fandom in Tyrone, where I'm from, is huge. It's humbling, but it's all the UFC. Like, the kids, they all, MMA is huge, but they only watch the UFC. Like, that's all they would never think of watching another promotion. Like, so if you got it here, lad, it would take it to a whole nother level. And the way I said, I was watching McGregor that night, and that gave me that goal. If I was able to go out and hang the head of someone with a big name, and I give one young lad or one girl from Tyrone, for me especially, but any part of Ireland, that would be me doing my part, wouldn't it?
That's it, yeah. And look, I'm conscious we've kept you for nearly 20 minutes now, Caolan, but
It's all good.
look, you said already that you're going to kill Jake Hadley on Saturday night. Can you give us your prediction on how you see it playing out on Saturday at UFC 304?
My pressure is too much for anyone with a full camp to deal with at the minute. I'm fucking flying. To come in, I know he's in shape, but to come in on whatever it is, 7 days notice, he'll be doing very well. Gonna flow, lad. I'm gonna be present in the moment. Fuck the crowd, fuck everything. I'm gonna be exactly where my feet are, dialed in, and just me and Jake in the cage. Whatever happens, happens. I am very confident that I can knock him out with my right hand, and I'm very confident I can take him down, smash his head in. Wherever it goes, it goes. He's a good fighter, but I can't see him. I can't see him troubling me. If I want a prediction, I say late finish, KO or TKO, third round.
Love it. And look, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. For anyone watching, they can see Caolan Loughran on the prelims of UFC 304 Saturday night in Manchester, England. Thanks a million, Caolan.
Anytime, boys. Let's go. Let's go.
Great stuff there from Caolan. And my God, tell you what, Caoilte, I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing for this weekend. I'll actually be over in Manchester, so excited for that. But we also I'm heading over. I'm actually only heading over on the Friday, so I have to work the week. So I head over Friday night, and then I will be at the event on Saturday. Unfortunately, my real job is preventing me from doing the other job that hobby. But yeah, anyway, we've got completely off track. Huge news. We have more huge news on this episode, because the woman that we have been pleading with the UFC for, we've been yelling, kind of lamenting into the abyss. Why has Danni McCormack not gotten an opportunity? And we have, look, we've long ago settled on the fact that it may not be going straight into the UFC, which I think is the wrong thing. But we just want any opportunity for Danni, and she finally has one. Danni McCormack will be competing on the 23rd of August in the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, at Road to UFC. She's not fighting in strawweight. The strawweight champion of Invicta is not going to be competing in her natural weight class, and she will be competing as a flyweight against China's Kihi Yan. 25-4. Caoilte, what was your reaction when you saw this news, and what do you make of the opponent here and the opportunity?
It's an opportunity, and that's all that matters. I was delighted. It's a long time coming. We all thought that she'd go straight in. We would have, especially after the title defense in Invicta, thought she'd go straight in, as most Invicta champions do. At very least, Dana White Contender Series. However, look, Road to UFC it is. It's an opportunity. I was shocked to see the fact that it was the flyweight. I do think that will make it easier for the weight cut and everything, the traveling, all that. But I think it will make it a little bit more difficult, because fighting up weight class after being so dominant as strawweight, it will be a challenge. But I think it's a challenge she's up to, especially the mindset she's in, the way she's looked in recent fights. I feel like that it could be, she's been banging on the door of the UFC for so long that I can't see her letting this one up. And I think she can go out there and really get it done. I'm not too sure about the opponent. A load of finishes across this similar, one or two same promotions, this WLF Wars in China. And yeah, haven't watched much of her yet. She'd a loss in the Contender Series, a split decision win her last one. I think the opponent's in for a tough night now against Danni, but it won't be an easy fight by any means. It'll be a tough test, and that's what's needed to get to the UFC, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, I completely agree with you that at this point, look, this is good news. Even though, like, I think Danni McCormack should have been straight in. I think when you look at some of the fighters in the UFC right now, you'd fancy Danni against many of them. In strawweight. I think that she should have been signed directly, but at this point, you kind of you have to celebrate any opportunity being given, because all of the feedback, Danni had spoken publicly about this, was that the UFC are like looking for, as a timer goes off, very unprofessional here. Danni was speaking about how like the feedback from the UFC was that they're looking for these undefeated fighters, that they're looking for finish. It just wasn't very positive towards her, which is very, very unfortunate. And like, Danni deserves a tremendous amount of credit for how she's handled all of this, because she had a great run in Invicta. She obviously, that iconic performance to win the belt over Tina Black, where, she has this like horrendous, like worst case scenario first round where you're thinking, oh my God, it's all over. And then she battles back, puts on a comeback for the ages to win the title, has this great moment on the mic. Then she goes in, defends her title. She doesn't get the call up. She defends her title. She gets the finish, which is what the UFC have been looking for. And then the call still doesn't come. But, rather than just saying, or like giving up on the dream, or going, okay, look, maybe I'll try go to PFL or Bellator, or maybe I'll just continue to take fights. And even at the time, there wasn't the opportunity to take fights in Invicta because the promotion was up in the air. She stuck to her guns. She got herself out of contracts. She didn't, prevent herself from missing out on an opportunity like this by signing with another promotion. And she finally gets an opportunity here. And I think it's brilliant. I'm delighted for her. And I think you're right. Like, this is a tough ask of her at the same time, fighting up a weight class, number one. She's showing how badly she wants this here. And to go in here against a fighter who has tripled the number, or almost tripled the number of professional fights as you have, is also a challenge to overcome, and a proven finisher. But look, it's a step closer, right? And I think that if there's anyone who can go out here and do it and defy the odds, we've seen her do it before in that title win to begin with. It's Danni McCormack. Do you feel the same way?
I do. Yeah, I think this is, I think she can get it done. She's, as I mentioned, she's that mentality that she has of wanting it so badly. I just feel like it's her moment is hopefully coming, and like, she's finally got the moment to get the opportunity, and now it's down to her to take it. It will be a tough ask, as you mentioned, but it's one that she's up to. And the whole, I don't even understand the format of this. I saw Road to UFC and I was thinking, great, like, this is I don't know if it's a tournament.
So here's the thing with Road to UFC, and I was in the exact same boat, and I was chatting to a couple of people, and they kind of clued me in. The Road to UFC is, it's primarily based for Chinese fighters, I believe, or at least Asian fighters. These ones are being held it's kind of like a season format. They're being held over in the US. And so some of the fighters who are in this, part of the framework of Road to UFC, the kind of tournament aspect or whatever, will have competed on the previous card and are now competing in this one and progressing on. The fighter that Danni is facing actually was fighting in a non-tournament bout the last time out. So Kihian fought Lisa Kiriakou and it was a split decision. Apparently it was a bit of a contentious decision as well, but she's fighting again here now against Danni in a non-tournament bout. So while there isn't a clear path here so even though we're kind of celebrating this opportunity, and I do think it's a step in the right direction. I do think it's a good opportunity for Danni McCormack. The path is still unpaved. Like it's we don't have a clear, you know, you win this and you go in. But what it does mean is she's in the UFC Apex. She's fighting in front of UFC matchmakers. So if she can go in here, you know, she's fighting a fighter who has already clearly impressed enough when she was in a non-tournament fight last time to be brought back. So clearly her fighting style, the fact that, like, as you mentioned, she's got, if you look at her Tapology page, and it's a long record, the vast majority of her wins are finishes. So clearly the UFC matchmakers have their eyes on this woman here as someone to potentially bring into their roster. If Danni can go in here, and especially if she can go in here and get a finish, like, I think that the UFC would be crazy not to sign her. But like, I really do think that is the best possible position that she can put herself in here. Like, that, it's essentially almost like a contender series here. It's not the same. It's not like, it's not a guarantee. But like, you know, you're fighting in the Apex in front of UFC matchmakers. It's basically contender series. Now, I don't know if Dana will be at it, so that's maybe the one aspect where you might be missing out on. But I think it's a brilliant opportunity for her, and I'm delighted for her. And look, hopefully we see Danni get the hand raised. Obviously, we're unbiased, but when it comes to the Irish fighting abroad, you always want to see them do well. But look, we have hit the hour mark here already, so we will move on, and we're going to talk briefly about the upcoming action. So we have Cage Legacy have a big fight, and our fearless leader, and let me tell you folks, I've never missed Ian O'Neill as much as during this podcast episode, because if you think I'm shite, I think I'm fucking shitter at doing this stuff. I miss him. I can't wait. No. He's far superior. He's far superior. But Ian will be seeing you this weekend, Caoilte, I believe, because you're going to Cage Legacy.
We are, yeah. You know, ain't no show like a Cage Legacy show yet. So he's come all the way over. None of this UFC Manchester crack. He's sticking to the regional scene. Me and Ian hitting Cage Legacy, and I can't wait. No, it's going to be brilliant. It's a stacked card. We'll go into it. It did look a lot better. It's not looking as good as it did, but it's still a good card. Excited to see Ian. Excited to have a few points with Ian, and go to an event. I'd say the amount of nostalgia. I can't wait to see his face. He walks in and sees like a regional show after we had the nationals, but I guess a regional show with the walkout and everything. I can't wait for that. I think it's gonna be a great night.
I mean, like, I sincerely hope Dollar Deck is rolling out the red carpet here now for
I heard he's getting with the limo.
I mean, like, it's got to be the limo, right? You can't have Ian O'Neill. You can't have Ian O'Neill at an event without giving him a limo. And you've got, Dollar Deck. We've got Coinage Caoilte here as well. So, I mean, you got to break out the red carpet for the boys. But look, let's talk about the cards. Do you want to kind of spotlight a couple of the fights that you're looking forward to here? Or we've got Max Lally taking on a short notice replacement in Weaverton dos Santos for the professional featherweight title, I believe, in the main event. Conor McCarthy, another short notice replacement, taking on Adi Nunes at lightweight professional fight. And then we have Alex Kyo versus Robert Barrett, lightweight title fight at amateur. Ben Mahan versus Keen McCartan. Kai O'Sullivan versus Carolina Arm. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but what are you looking forward to most out of this card, Caoilte?
Yeah, obviously the main event. Looking forward to see Max Lally back in action. I'm not as keen as with the replacement, but you got to fight what's in front of you, and injuries happen. I was a lot more excited for the Wesley Machado fight until he was forced to withdraw due to injury, I believe it was. But the Conor McCarthy fight against Adi Nunes is one that I'm looking forward to. Conor McCarthy's looked sensational since turning. Well, even as an amateur, he looked brilliant, and he's looked fantastic as a pro as well. Adi Nunes, it's not someone who's got a losing record. I believe he's 1-0 Portuguese or Angolan Portuguese. I can't remember what.
From what I saw, he's got one fight on his MMA record.
Yeah, see, a lot of these, the one thing with some of those scenes is you don't know it. Some of the data is hard to get for the likes of for some parts in Europe. It's just hard to get, but it could be just one fight as well. That's the other side of it. So it's hard to know. So due to the
Yeah,
unknown
like-
fact, I'm excited. It's annoying.
I don't want to be like, I don't want to be negative, because like I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant that Cage Legacy are putting on fights and professional fights, and Conor McCarthy and Max Lally are they're two fighters who a lot of people are incredibly excited about right now. Like Conor McCarthy looks phenomenal. Max Lally has looked fantastic as well. Soaring prospects, I would say, are very early on in their careers. It's just when you look at the opponent for Max, it's like there's an eye test when it comes to matchups sometimes, and like fights, you can look at a record and it not mean anything, or you can look at a record and it mean everything. And when you look at Weaverton dos Santos' record, you click in and immediately you see 0-3, and you're like, okay, well maybe he's a durable fighter and he's gone to decisions. But then you see he's been finished in the first round of all of his fights, and I think the two of them were to fighters who had never fought in MMA before. So it's hard not to feel like, you know what way this fight's going to go. You know that Max Lally is going to get a finish in the first, or at least the expectation is that Max Lally
it's a fight at the end of the day.
First round.
Yeah,
it's a fight. Don't get me wrong. Anything can happen, but like, as someone looking
overriding,
you see that, you're like, well, we know how good Max Lally is, so of course he's going to go in here and finish him in the first round. That's the tough part of these. And look, we talked about Eimear, Darcy earlier on in Cage, whereas it's the same thing that applies here. And you look at, I think Max is an absolutely phenomenal fighter. I just don't think, I think he's had some tough tests. Like that Tiernan Loughran fight at Amateur was a brilliant fight. I just don't think that we've seen Max in there as a pro to date against anyone that sniffs his level. You look at the last fight, obviously Nikola Ivanovic he's tough, and he broke Lee Hammond's nose. We always kind of refer back to that one.
I was going to say, we can only refer back to that one moment for so long, though. It shows he's dangerous. That's the one thing it does. But
it's just not. It's not a fight that we'll learn anything from, really, is it?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, and then Conor McCarthy, obviously, fighting a guy who's 1-0, which is, to be fair, like he's gone in there and he's won. I assume, well, clearly Conor McCarthy is a vastly more experienced fighter here. And again, like, even though this guy has a win on his record, Conor McCarthy is I think the best young prospect in Irish MMA right now. And I think that he, the expectation again would be that he'd go in there and probably put him away. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing the two lads compete. I would like to see them against stiffer competition. But again, late notice replacements. So, like, and in fairness to Declan Kenna and Cage Legacy, to keep them on the show is great. It's just a bit unfortunate that they're not, maybe in there against different fighters. But I am looking forward to seeing the two lads compete.
Same as, look, it's part of MMA. It's unfortunate. I think the way the card originally looked, as I mentioned, with Wesley Machado versus Max Lally, and do you know what, the replacement that Conor McCarthy got originally, that was supposed to be a welterweight, the name escapes me, is it Mustafa Radi? That was, I couldn't believe it. At that point the card peaked. I was like, wow, this is insane.
So that was like 24
hours.
And then it was gone again.
Yeah, we had 24 hours of a card looking so solid, and now look, it's still all right. And I'm still looking forward to it. I hope my credential isn't taken off me after this is released. But
no, but like, look, we're not saying this just to be negative, because like, I think there's other fights on the card that are brilliant. Like, I'm looking at that Ben Mahon versus, and Ben Mahon is, you could say the opposite for this, where Ben Mahon's like, he's quite young. I think he's probably only like 18, 19 or something like this. He's only had like a couple of fights, but he's looked spectacular in the fights that he's had, fighting out of SPG Charlestown and going in here taking on SPG Ireland's Keane McCartan, who we've seen many, many times, and is I'd be quite high on Keane McCartan as well. Like, I think that's a cracking matchup. Ben Mahon potentially thrown into a bit of a sink or swim fight here for him.
I think he really is, to be honest. He's only 2 fights, and it's he only made his debut this year, and against lads who were only beginning their career as well. Now he's going in against Keane McCartan, who has European gold medalist and a European silver medal in the IMAFs, and then alongside some success in the regional scene. Like Kiefer McCartan's also scheduled to fight Damien McGuigan. We'll probably get into that as well. But do you know that this is a really, really tough fight? I was surprised at the fight being made, but either way, I'm excited. Ben Mann has looked good, and it'll be interesting to see him tonight.
Yeah, 100%. The other one that I'm looking at as well is Alex Keogh. Like we obviously there was a bit of a back and forth, and I don't know if Declan was too happy with us previously, where we were pointing out maybe one of the previous matches for him where we thought it was a bit of a mismatch. But you know, this is what I like to see is the progression here. Alex Keogh going in here fighting for a title against Robert Barrett, who 3-1 as an amateur. I think all three of his wins are by decision, but additionally his one loss is by a split decision. So, you know, this is a step up in competition from what we've seen Alex against. So that is great to see. Just looking at the rest of the card, are there any other fights that you're looking forward to here? I see we've got Kaya O'Sullivan on the card as well, and
that's the fight.
Yeah.
I
Looking
think
forward to
that's
that one. Tell us about that
I think that's going to be a cracker. Getting Carolina Arm in is that's, you know what? Yeah, I feel like this is going to be an absolute banger. Like,
so I know, I imagine some of the listeners, I know nothing about Carolina Arm. So tell me about her.
She's a striker, basically. Best way of putting it. She's fought Muay Thai professionally. She's trained out of Bangtao. All the kind of ingredients to be a fantastic fight. She seems lethal. I watched a few clips of her. I've seen bits of fights as well, a few highlights, and I think what was it? She's a mad record in Thai boxing. It's gone from the top of my head now. I think she was undefeated in Thai boxing, and so pure striker. I think it'll be a very, very tough test for Kaya, but Kaya's one of the rising prospects in Irish MMA and is extremely well rounded. And has, mixed it up with some of the best in Europe, best in the world at the IMAFs, and then the best in Ireland as well. So a very, very worthy title fight from on paper. I'm not sure how Caroline Arm's going to look in an MMA setting, but I imagine, considering she's trained out of Bangtao and the fact that she's such a good striking pedigree, I feel like this one's going to be an absolute banger, to be honest. Yeah,
like watching Kaya Sullivan fight is a joy to watch it. Like, I remember watching her at the IMAFs, and like a terrific fighter. And the other fight I'm looking forward to here is Rian O'Flaherty. He's taking on Nick Rebrianu. Rian, I'm trying to remember which one. I think it might have been the fight against Alex Fagan at Cage Legacy 20. That was a wild fight, and I feel like Rian tends to kind of get into these wild fights. Nick Rebrianu, I remember seeing him. He's had a couple of tough losses. I think he's on a bit of a losing streak at the moment, but like he's fought some solid competition, and I remember seeing him fight against Dara Ward as well, and I'm looking forward to that fight. So I think there's a good bit on offer here for Cage Legacy, and we lamented maybe the opponents for Max and Connor, but if you're an Irish MMA fan and you want to see two lads who have the potential to go, places in MMA, I mean, this is a card that is well worth the price of admission, I would say, when you consider some of the amateur matchups that they have on, but then obviously getting to see maybe more showcase bouts for Max Lally and Conor McCarthy here, and more importantly than anything, you'll get to shake hands and kiss babies with Caoilte Barra and Ian O'Neill. So get down to Cage Legacy this weekend on the 27th of July, this Saturday at the Warehouse, Dublin. Caoilte, this might be, with Ian not reeling us in here, this may end up being the longest podcast that we ever do. There's some other action coming up.
Fly through.
We're gonna fly through it. Let's go through the news and action, right? So Adam Shelley this weekend taking on Ewan Davies. I love this matchup because what you were just talking about earlier on, he's fighting this Thursday, by the way, at Cage Warriors. You talked about Kiefer Crosbie getting his own back for Cian Cowley. Well, Adam Shelley here has an opportunity to do that for Leon Hill against another prospect coming out of Wales in Ian Davies. What do you make of this one?
It's a cracker. I love the matchup. Two prospects in Cage Warriors going head to head. The matchmaking's fantastic. I love the little, that extra bit of angle of he's win over your teammate, go out there, and Adam Shelley will have spent the rounds in there with Leon as well, absorbing the information that he learned from being in there with Ewan Davies. So overall, I think it could end up being a striker versus grappler fight more than anything. Ewan Davies, unbelievable grappler, really good. The Shelleys, both of them, we've actually seen, they've got this incredible taekwondo pedigree, but we've seen them very good grapplers as well. But I do think if Shelley can keep him at range and use that striking and avoid some of the takedown and the submission threats of Ewan Davis, then he could be onto a winner here. But wow, what a fight. Hard to call. And I'm not going to be the one to call it because it is tough. Great fight.
I mean, like, obviously we spoke about Ryan Shelley earlier on, like that tough matchup with Nick Bailey. This is a tough matchup here for Adam Shelley. The Team KF lads seem to be getting quite tough matchups here in Cage Warriors at the moment. But yeah, like if you look at Ian Davies, he's got 4 first round finishes as a pro, and he looked red hot as a prospect against Leon Hill there. So a tough matchup, but very interesting to see how Adam gets on there, who's on a bit of a streak now at the moment himself after suffering a couple of losses earlier on in his career. But look, we will move on. And another KF fighter who has a fight, we talk about Conor McCarthy, we talk about Max Lally, but Dom Norkus could easily be in, the conversation for one of the most promising prospects coming out of Ireland, early in their pro career right now. All these guys would be chomping at the bit depending on their activity levels for the SevereMMA Emerging Irish Prospect of the Year award come the end of 2024. Dom Norkus taking on Yusuf Ali Taleb at Fight Start Championships on the 3rd of August, Saturday 3rd of August, so in a couple of weeks. We'll obviously look ahead to that one, we'll look back at that one on our next episode of the podcast. But Dom Norkus again here, how excited are you looking at this guy coming in?
Yeah, look, love the matchmaking. He just takes tough fights, has as an amateur, is as a pro, and that's the way it should be. I love it. 2 lads who are 2-0, someone's always got to go. Brilliant. I think Chris Fields mentioned on the crack that he is 3 fights line. He's got some mad schedule for Dom Norkus, but you love to see it. They seem to be fast tracking him into the pro ranks and trying to get him as much experience and rack up as much wins as possible, and hopefully get into the UFC sooner rather than later. But he's got this fight first. It's going to be a tough one. The guy he's fighting has got 2 finishes in a row, both via KO. And brilliant. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, a couple more news and notes here. We had a couple of PFL fight announcements for the playoff show on the 23rd of August in Washington, D.C. James Gallagher, the Strub Animal, returning to action against Brian Zurcher. I think it's Brian Zurcher, 9-0. I think he's from fighting out of Mexico, or I think he's a Mexican fighter. He looks like a finisher here. I think he came up through the PFL Challenger Series. But yeah, like Jesus, this guy he looks to be a serious finisher here. Again, also Luca Pocklet on that same card fighting Neiman Gracie. But James Gallagher, I mean, we just seem to be fighting or seeing him fight in all of the random shows here. He's fighting in Washington, D.C. Is that bizarre to you too?
Yeah, I was really hoping that we'd see him on an Irish card on a Dublin card. I know he fought in Belfast, didn't he? Yes, he did. But I was hoping we'd see him in Dublin. It is very random. And it's a shame. I think the Irish fans would love to see him compete in front of a Dublin crowd once again. He always has a place buzzing. I'm not too sure about the opponent, to be very honest. Undefeated, so must be good. Must be some bit good, but hard to know. I've not seen much of him just yet. But the fact that he came through the PFL Challenger Series probably says that they're very high on him, and he does have 1 or 2 good wins in his record. Yeah, more than anything, just happy to see Jimmy back in there, to be honest with you.
Additionally, we have a couple of Bellator London announcements. Darragh Kelly and Kieran Clark returning to action. This was reported by Theo on SevereMMA there last week. Darragh Kelly taking on Dmitry Ritsenko, 9-0 in a lightweight bout at Bellator London. I believe that's in September, if I recall correctly. And Kieran Clark taking on Zebinzui Ruiz. Zebinzui Ruiz. Yeah, we'll go with that. What do you make of this one? Kelly taking on obviously an undefeated, I think he's Ukrainian fighter, Ritsenko, who has a win over Daniel Skatizi, right, his teammate here in SBG Ireland.
Yeah, look, I think for a long while we've been calling for some of these tougher tests, and look, it's finally come. I love it. I think it's like they've been listening to the media and listening to some of the criticism and thinking, you know what, this is the time, and adding and matching up a really tough fight. This is a guy, Darragh Kelly's going against a lad who's beaten his teammate as well. This narrative seems to be a theme of this podcast today. It's like the teammates can try and get revenge for revenge the losses of their teammates. But yeah, look, Darragh Kelly, very tough fight. I think this could be the one that maybe helps him break into that next kind of tier of, I don't know how it's read, because there's no rankings. It's hard to know.
Yeah, like Kelly, Dara was talking after his last win just there about wanting to take that next step. So whether it's like he was calling for activity, which is brilliant to see, and this is one of the criticisms we've had for Bellator slash PFL or Bellator more so over the last number of years is the lads fighting twice a year on Irish shows and not getting opportunities elsewhere. Great to see Dara getting and Kieran getting opportunities here now in London. But Kelly was kind of talking about, he would be open to PFL Europe, these type of competitions. So I think that this is a good litmus test for Kelly, where you can have him fight this and then maybe get him into the PFL European tournament next year. I think that'd be a great idea. And similarly for Clark, like Sebenzi Ruiz, he's not someone that I'm overly familiar with, to be honest. But I do believe, I'm gonna square with you, lads. Like, I'm fucking looking up his Tapology record here. That's the crack here right now. Ian O'Neill not here. I have to host, so I'm gonna be multitasking. He's fought on the PFL 9 playoffs card. He got a decision win over Rafael Uchegbu. He's on a win streak, but he's not someone who I'm overly familiar with, to be honest here. And I don't like. I think this is, without passing too much judgment, because he's got a win here over Pedro Sousa, 18-5. He finished him in his last fight. But it's not necessarily the name value kind of litmus test that we've been calling for Kieran. To be seen, I guess, if this guy is a really tough test for Kieran. I'm not going to pass judgment on that right now without doing my homework. But is this the type of matchup that you were hoping for Kieran coming into this? I know this is like the rinse and repeat topic we have for Kieran's fight announcements these days, but what you make of it?
No, it's not what I expected. It's not what I hoped for. But I'm also not surprised. Maybe they're trying to build up, they're trying to add another prospect to the ranks and pit the two of them together. But I'm not familiar with the opponent at all to be able to pass judgment. Like, same with you. But I was hoping for a big fight, a big name. There's plenty of options around there, and maybe have the two big names in a fight to maybe have implications elsewhere down the line, be it a opportunity to fight one of the tournaments or a title or progression towards a title, one or the other. That's what I was hoping for, and I don't feel like we've gotten it out of this fight. But either way, it's good to see him back in there. Activity, that's the main thing, isn't it? Especially with Bellator, they usually only fight twice a year, historically have. So hopefully it means they start fighting 3-4 times, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. Lastly and finally, and we thank you for sticking with us, because we have definitely set some sort of record here, and it's not what I was hoping for. So the fucking Joe Rogan experience here, but it's, or the MMA hour, which is like 5 hours long. Finally, I thought this was brilliant to see an announcement of an event from Akuma, and it caught my eye in a big way, because we have and I'm fucking forgetting where it is here now. We have a banger. This is it. This is the one. Owen McDonald, pro debut versus Jordan Bradshaw, pro debut, fighting here at Akuma. And I love this. I think this is a very, very well matched fight. And I think that we don't see enough of this at the pro level in Ireland. You see it sometimes. You do see the odd, you see some here and there, but it doesn't happen enough. And I think it's an absolute banger of a fight between two lads who are putting their egos aside, taking on a tough test. And I think it's a credit to Akuma for putting it on, but also, more importantly, to Owen, to Jordan, and to their teams in FAI and in CMAC. I was buzzing when I saw this matchup. Did you have a similar reaction to me, or what do you reckon?
Oh yeah, absolutely buzzing. I think like the fact that we're seeing fights like this in the region scene is just brilliant, and I think we've been hoping to see more of it for quite some time now, and it's great to see fights like that put on. It's great to see lads willing to fight each other very early on in their careers, and it seems like something it was going to be inevitable. It is going to be inevitable in future, because there's only so many slots these big promotions have, and there's only so many fighters that regional promotions can fly in as well, because with the amount of pros that are coming up through the ranks, they're going to have to fight each other eventually if they can't get matched elsewhere or can't get an opponent in from abroad. So yeah, absolutely buzzing. It kind of feels like nearly some of the older school cards of Irish MMA in a way, and yeah, brilliant to see. Fair play. Hats off to the two lads. And look, it's not the only good fight in the card. Akuma are really pulling out the bag to got that flyweight title of Jamie McGuigan and Keane McCartan. They got the bantamweight title fight between Olmas Oliver and Fufu Fares. So hats off. They're pulling out the bag. If that card stays together, oh wow, brilliant. I nearly make a trip up.
Absolutely brilliant, and like it reminds me of the cage conflict card where you had Ger Harris and Kieran Mulholland. Like I was there that night. The atmosphere was phenomenal. I think having those type of matchups, early days for professionals is brilliant. And to be honest, I know people focus in a lot more on records these days, and maybe that's coming from the top down from the UFC and things like that. But I just don't think that. I understand the perspective of it pushes someone back, but I think you look at the likes of Ian Gary fighting James Sheen when they were only a couple of fights into their careers, and you look at them now. Ian Gary obviously in the UFC flying high, and James Sheen is a Cage Warriors world champion. So I think in the long run, I think it helps lads to grow. But look, that's just my opinion on it anyway. But I'm delighted to see, and look, thank you all. That is it. We have finished. This has been well over 2 hours. I am so excited for UFC 304 this weekend. I will be over in Manchester covering the card. If anyone else is heading over, stop by and say hello. And if you're heading to Cage Legacy, say hello to Caoilte and Ian. I am devastated to be not seeing you, but look, we've 3 Irish in the UFC. That does not happen often these days, and duty calls. So thank you all for listening. We miss you, Ian O'Neill. In fact, I don't think he'll be here for the next episode either, but I can't wait till he's back because
I'll take the reins next time.
Yeah, you're in the hot seat next week, Caoilte, and look, we'll chat to you again soon. Like, subscribe, tell a mate. This has been the El Triangle, and the final thing to do is for Caoilte to see us out.
Gar míle maith agaibh agus slán go fóill.